2020. Day 47 without live sports, but only 44 days until the Chuck Schwab Classic in Fort Worth. We can't wait. We usually have a college football countdown. The Chuck Schwab countdown. Can't wait. Heck, right now, Dave Wolo, I'd take the Howie Schwab Classic.
I'd take any kind of, if there's a prediction and there's a final score, we'd love it, wouldn't we?
We would. We
really
love
would.
It. Dave Wolo in the august studios of WOLO. That's called
There you go.
I'm top Rose Lane in Broadway at the Avenue of the Americas. That's called my house in Far City. And we're with you until 6 o'clock today. We want you to be a part of our show. You can do it at 360-8255. That's the First Bank phone line. Or 67129, that's the First Bank text line. And thank you so much to First Bank. And you see across the country, banks like First Bank, community banks really being the leader in working through these PPP loans. And it's been, they've absolutely been overrun with business, but they're at the vanguard of it, as usually it is the case with community banks. That is the preferred way to bank. We got a busy Tuesday afternoon at 3:30. The voice, maybe the conscience of Memphis. He has brought us good news and sometimes not so good news through the year. All the news that breaks. Joe Birch from Action News 5. He's been with us once during this pandemic. He'll be with us again. Dave, as I think about all the people that have been so very kind to join us that normally would not be in our phones, our Rolodex, our guests. We have Joe on every year around the golf tournament and to plug his run for sure, and a time or two others. But I really want to, when we get free and clear of this, whenever that is, if that is, I want to remember all these good people who have been nice enough to join us to talk during these down times, and we have them on again someday, and maybe with some regularity when we're back to just talking hits, runs, and errors and having fun.
Well, and his appearance today is actually perfect timing. A lot of the times, Joe, who I like the way you put it, and I think I'm going to intro him this way when he comes on in a half an hour. He is really the Walter Cronkite of Memphis. He's been around the longest. He is very trusted, and he should be.
Very.
He gives you the news. Sometimes you can tell emotionally how he's feeling about it, but for the most part, he is really steady and just the facts, Jack. But he's also very promotion-minded. You mentioned he comes on. It's usually timed around one of his philanthropic things, like a charity run, or he does some other things too. This one, however, and it's just by chance, because I called him not really knowing for sure when this thing was going to take place. I've been watching the Channel 5 promos, though. But they have a Zoom meeting town hall tonight. It's called The Road to Reopening. There will be 8 prominent leaders at. It's actually at 7 o'clock tonight on through Zoom, and he'll tell us exactly how you can do it. But so there's a good reason why we were fortunate with timing that he has agreed to come on, so he can promote that, and he'll give us his views as to maybe what some of the things we'll be hearing tonight if you join that town meeting.
At 4 o'clock, we'll have our buddy Brent Beard. He's with us year-round talking college football predominantly and college sports. And there's some news there today of a lot of statements being made and more schools talking about their intentions for normal fall class. At 4:30, Rex Hoggard from Golf Channel. We would have had him on last year at the golf tournament if I could have written his number down legibly for Drew. I inverted some numbers, and Rex was ready to go with us from the golf tournament last year at the WGC FESJI, but I fouled up the number. I've got it right today, I think. He's going to join us at 4:30 as we await the aforementioned. Huh?
Okay, I got a question for you. Seriously, have you ever heard of the Outlaw Golf Tournament, the Outlaw Golf Tour?
I have not.
Okay. There was a thing on CBS today, and they're actually doing fantasy golf with it because it is still going on. Maybe Rex will know.
Maybe Rex will. We'll visit with him about that. And as we await the Charles Schwab Classic down at Colonial in Fort Worth, his golf has been very aspirational, as I think most people are, about the releasing of their schedule. At 5 o'clock, our friend Bo Marchant from collegetopro.com to wrap up the draft and talk about who out of the draft we will have going to the Hall of Fame. I've named mine through the years. I don't know if any have really maybe the good defensive back for Jacksonville. I don't know, but through the years we've always picked one out of the draft we kind of predict for Hall of Fame bound or not. We will see. I know I like most people. We're ready to go back to our old lives, but I want to be very clear with this. I'm ready to safely and smartly reopen. I don't want to speedily reopen. The speed of it is the last of the issues for me. I want to do it safe and smart, and we be able to do it, and we be able to reopen one time, and we don't have to shutter again and have a second reopening.
Well, I'm with you. I'm as ready as anybody for us to do more things. I mean, the only thing that I really do, and it does bring me a lot of joy, is play golf. And I salute the golf industry for being proactive with the way we do these things, whether there's no sticks or a stick that stays, you never touch it, no rakes, no water on the golf course. Anything that you could communally touch, it's not there. But I'm also hesitant, and I think some of this is actually age-driven. I mean, if we think about it, anybody at any age, we know this now for sure, can get COVID-19. For a long time, 21 to 30 was the age demographic that really had more numbers of cases than older. Although, unfortunately, my age group, your age group soon, over 60, is quickly catching up. But when it comes to fatalities, it is a much older age group. I haven't seen the total breakdown of that. I would love to see the demographics. I've seen racial demographics, and I know in Shelby County, it's 72% of those that have passed are African Americans, and a lot of that has to do with just the healthcare setups that we have and poverty, and pre-existing conditions because of those things. But if you take a person who's 20 years old, and this might be a good example for later when we decide whether we're going to have fans in stands, and in particular college football, because if you can send a college athlete into a ball game, although you can easily test college athletes before they go into battle as opposed to checking out a whole stadium, but if you're in the 20 to 30 age group, you may get the disease, but the odds are really good you're not going to die from the disease, and that may end up being sort of the barometer that we use, that you get it, it'll be mild, but it's not going to kill you, whereas my age group may not be going to ball games. They may be watching it on TV, at least for a little while, until we have clear answers about how it works, whether that's treatment, vaccine, whatever it may be. But it's clear that age is going to be a part of that. And it goes to the point that I originally wanted to make, and that is everything to me about how quick it all happens should be data-driven. And once we figure out that data, whether that's the age base I just talked about or anything else, in particular cases and tracing, which I'll talk about when we do top story, not top story, that to me, I want to see the numbers and what those odds might be, and I'll live by that. That's why we have Bruce Marshall on the show every week when we're talking sports. Well, now I want to see numbers to drive these decisions, because that's where smartness comes in.
Yeah, and I don't want to be a denier, and I was not at the beginning of it when we were talking about it being way over there. I didn't deny that it couldn't be big. I may have not have been as up to speed as I probably should have been. A real signal to the world should have been on the reports of in Wuhan that the communist government of China they were welding people inside their apartment complexes, and they could not extricate themselves. Those stories that came out in January, and then the story, and it piqued, more than piqued my interest when I heard the story of, like, in 5 days they built the hospital. I thought, I didn't know, I didn't know you could even think about doing that. Well, that should have alerted. That should have been the signal to the world of something major coming this way. So I wasn't a denier then, and I sure don't want to be a denier now, because I believe in numbers and averages and facts and figures, and I'm going to be with you, but I want it to be I'm ready to reopen, but I want to do it safely and smartly. Dave, today the chancellor at Oregon, President Provost, the leader of Oregon, whatever his title is, he said that they intend to be open for fall classes. And what you just talked about, the younger element of it, is more of a reason why I think we can have traditional, maybe not report in August. It might be a little bit later, September, maybe even October, with a compact, with a very compressed fall schedule. But the younger people on a college campus would lend itself to opening. Now, the flaw there is they all go off to college, and they're only around mostly 18 to 22-year-olds. Then they go home at Thanksgiving.
I picked up on it was Dennis Dodd, because that's how I Googled this, and I went to the Chronicle of Higher Education, because that's where he directed me to. And your University of Oregon story is interesting to me, because they say, and all of these presidents who have come out and are really kind of saying, you know what, we are going to be holding on campus classes this year, but they are all hedging it. For instance, that president at Oregon says he's aiming for in-person instruction this fall. It's unlikely, however, the fall quarter will look like it did last fall. And most of these people are committing to, unless the medical folks tell them differently, to be on campus for classes this fall, which opens up the door for college football. This is the top story of the day for me, other than the numbers which I give in our traditional spot. But today, Major League Baseball decided that they are shooting for opening day between mid-June and July the 4th. So they're looking at about an 80 to 100 game schedule through October. They say expanded postseason will probably come on neutral sites. So in other words, because they're only playing 80 to 100 games, they're going to allow more teams into the playoffs. They'll play them on neutral sites.
Fine.
And they're talking about the World Series would come in either late November or early September. They will prorate the salaries of the players. They've already agreed to all of that. Some of those numbers will be affected by whether or not there are fans in the stands. So that hasn't been decided yet. They really haven't figured it all out yet. But to me, when you read that story, it tells you there's going to be a baseball season this year.
Some kind of one, and even the very aspirational goal of, as you get through June, through July, maybe even through August, maybe try to have some September games and some playoffs in October and into November at the home ballparks and stadiums for their teams. But again, it is very aspirational. Back to the verbiage for the Oregon president, the leader of the University of Oregon. It's very illustrative that they intend to.
Right.
Well, Dave, you intended to be at the AAC championship tournament. The SEC men's basketball tournament intended to have a tournament, and you know the NCAA intended to have the Final Four.
No.
There's a lot of difference between intending to and having it.
My friend, you are almost never not on the money, but you are slightly inaccurate here. I intended to be at the American Athletic Conference tournament, and I was at the American Athletic Conference tournament.
Well, you intended to see games.
They just decided we weren't going to have it while I was there.
Yeah, and there's always an out. I've joked with you through the years. You know what the opposite of maybe is, don't you? Maybe not.
Yeah.
And the opposite of intended to, well, good intentions, meaning well, and actually doing it is far different, and that could be the same thing for Charles Schwab and the Golf Tour, and look forward to visiting with Rex Hoggard about that when we talk with him at 4:30 from Golf Channel. This hour brought to you every day by Lexus of Memphis, 2600 Ridgeway, and online at lexusofmemphis.com. Call them at 901-362-8833. Lexus of Memphis offering the Golden Opportunity Spring Sales Event. Not much of April left, but plenty of spring left. Great offers on all 2020 models and special lease options. If you've ever thought I'd look great in a Lexus, well, guess what? Lexus of Memphis thinks you would look great in a Lexus, too. Drive in luxury and confidence, knowing that every new Lexus comes with complimentary first and second maintenance services. Stop by today at Lexus of Memphis at 2600 Ridgeway and put yourself in the driver's seat of an all-new 2020 flagship LS500, and you'll be looking and driving great. Lexus of Memphis, the high standards in the industry. When you purchase a Lexus, you get top-of-the-line engineering and design, and that makes for the luxury driving experience. 901-362-8833, online at lexusofmemphis.com. Experience amazing at Lexus of Memphis.
Top story of the day.
Well, the virus log numbers today and stories come down to Phase 1, which we announced they were going to do this in 3 phases yesterday when the mayors all had their conference. There is no date yet today for Phase 1 opening. That came from Lisa Haushalter, who is the Shelby County Health Department head. She does say Phase 1 will also include, when they decide they're going to go this route, that tracing contact will be key. This is, if you get it, they are able to find out where the contact was made and trace exactly all the people you might have been in touch with. And they are working hard on that particular aspect of it. They have 2 shifts, 7 days a week, with 20 to 25 individuals who are investigating, and they want that department to grow. Shelby County, 38 new cases since we last spoke to you yesterday, now with 2,358, although there were much fewer tests taken for some reason yesterday than there were over the weekend. They now have 25,000 tests so far registered in all of Shelby County. We'll give you some of those results in a minute. 1 new death from yesterday, and that is now 46 total. The state of Tennessee, we are approaching the 10,000 mark, 9,918 with 184 who have passed away. We've had 154,000 tests. The positivity rate for those tests in the state of Tennessee are at 6.4%. We've had over 25,000 tests taken in Shelby County, and we are up significantly, 3.2% higher than or I should say 2.8% higher than the rest of the state. 9.2% positivity in Shelby County as compared to 6.4% throughout the rest of the state. Mississippi, 6,300, 239 have passed. In DeSoto County, 6 new cases since yesterday, so that's a good sign. 272 total cases in DeSoto County. In Arkansas, 3,069, 51 have passed. We've passed the 3 million mark now on the global dashboard. 3,110,000, 215,000 have passed away. 950,000 or thereabouts have recovered in the United States. We're over 1 million cases now, with 57,862 who have passed and a little over 140,000 who have recovered. Those are our numbers of the day.
The numbers go up, the tests go up, the fatality rate will go down. The fatalities per million people are starting to edge down in the United States. You look at the fatality rates per million people, like in Italy and in France and in the UK, it really hit them hard. You know, the mayor of New York said, you know, for all the blame, I think properly, that the Chinese government gets, but a lot of cases came into New York from European flights. So, you know, everything is very local. Ryan Post said that yesterday. We were very, very interconnected. My top story of the draft really highlighted there's really kind of one upper tier of college football. There's one exclusive penthouse. You can kind of pick your teams from this: LSU, Bama, Auburn, Georgia, Florida, Clemson, Ohio State, and Oklahoma. That's kind of the group at the top. You see it in the draft. I was stunned to find out during the draft, Dave. I did not realize this. The first time national champion in college football was Florida. And that was in 1996. Who can you think of that would break through and finally be a first-time national champion in college football, or a really, really, really long time? North Carolina with Mack Brown, Wisconsin maybe. Oregon is a likely suspect with Mario Cristobal.
Yeah,
they were close.
I would agree with that.
Texas A&M, of course, A&M claims one like in 39 or 40, so that would be a really, really long time. But it's almost hard to crack through and be that first-timer in college football. Virginia did it last year in basketball. It's a little easier to do in basketball. It's not that often in basketball, but it's almost impossible to do it in college football.
How many from the SEC have never won a national title?
Of any claim?
Yes.
Are you talking in segregated, crew cut football years too?
I am. Because that would count in your first time ever. If we're counting the subjective picking of UPI and AP back when.
Okay, well, in the West, State hadn't. In the East, Mizzou, Kentucky, South Carolina, and Vanderbilt. But there would be, a claim from a long time ago for Arkansas and Ole Miss, and I mentioned A&M from a long time ago. But anything resembling
you would think of all those schools that you just mentioned, the best one, because I'm going to count Ole Miss and I'm going to count Arkansas as having won it, because
they sure count it.
Yeah, they do, absolutely. So that means to me, is of all the names that you mentioned, the one with the best chance, and let's face it, the SEC, 25% of the league was drafted this past year from the SEC. I would have to think South Carolina would have the best chance, especially because they're in the East.
Yeah, but if they didn't do it under Steve Spurrier, it's going to be hard to do it. Drew?
Not top story of the day.
Well, I mentioned the baseball story and the fact that it could be opening day sometime between the end of June and July 4th, which would make all of us very happy. And baseball is even owning now the fact that they're not going to play 162 games. We mentioned somewhere between 80 and 100 game schedule, most likely, is what they are contemplating. And so they are even copying that, because they are saying now fans who want refunds for the games that have already been played, they can start to get them. Before they were calling those games postponed. Now they are saying those games are canceled. So they've given up on a 162-game schedule. If you bought tickets, season tickets or whatever, you can basically start to ask for refunds for the games that have already been missed. And, Brett, I know where you're going next. The NBA ought to start owning up and copying to it, and I got a feeling that'll be one of the first things that Adam Silver will address in May when he addresses whether or not they are playing, where they are playing. The next sentence will be, and for those of you who missed 6 games, 5 games, whatever it was on your season ticket package, let us know, and teams will start to refund.
Yeah, and again, I don't mean it rancorous. Just I know in these times, if somebody else is sitting on someone else's money, they may need that money. My not top story, either the California governor, Gavin Newsom, is serious about California being shut down, although he did just announce that school is going to restart in July. Either they're shut down or they're not. And if they're shut down, then the Lakers or the Clippers or the Warriors or the Kings shouldn't get a pass to have camp, or they need to gradually reopen and allow them as everyone else. It looks to me like Lakers, Clippers, Warriors, and Kings may have to find somewhere else to camp, and I think it would be good for the sport. The Sacramento Kings go to the University of Wyoming's facilities in Laramie, and that's where they work their way back into whatever season we're going to have, where we're going to have it. The Lakers go to Arizona State. The Clippers go to University of Arizona, and the Golden State Warriors go to somewhere safe in El Paso, Texas, or Austin, Texas, or somewhere that is safe.
How about Montana somewhere? White Lake, Montana.
That'd be great to head to Montana. I think most people would enjoy that. I know we're going to enjoy Joe Birch from Action News 5 with us. We will visit with him. We'll have Brent Beard with us at 4 o'clock, Rex Hoggard from the Golf Channel at 4:30, and Bo Marchant from College to Pro to talk the draft at 5 o'clock. We'll wrap up the day with Taco Bell Crunch Time at 5:47. So a lot to visit about today. Day 47 without sports, but 44 more days until the Chuck Schwab. We are ready for it for sure. Up next from Action News 5, it'll be Joe Birch. You're listening to Sports Time on Sports 56 with Wolo and Stats on AM 560, 87.7, and 96.1 FM.
Greg Gaston and Eli Savoy get you through the midday with Sports 56 Middays. Delivered by FedEx. Weekdays from 10 till 1 on Sports 56, 96.1, and 87.7.
Eat well and stay healthy with Sweetgrass Next Door's to-go and delivery service. From shrimp and grits to pork chops to chocolate chip cookies and more, feed your need. Located in the heart of Cooper Young Midtown, Sweetgrass Next Door makes for an easy to-go, pickup, and delivers to all of Midtown, most of downtown, and even East Memphis locations. For more information, visit online sweetgrassmemphis.com or call 901-278-0278 to place your order today.
I'm Sean Castle, served in the United States Army. I am unstoppable because Paralyzed Veterans of America is by my side. And for the rest of my life, I will be unstoppable because they are there with me.
Learn more at pva.org.
Golfers, our tee times, fairways, and greens are on the horizon. Until then, your friends at Edwin Watts Golf Shops encourage you to stay safe, practice social distancing, and wash your hands. Our plan is to reopen based off state and federal guidelines. During the interruption, our online store remains open at worldwidegolfshops.com. Thank you for your patience and understanding, and most of all, for being a part of our amazing golf community. Stay healthy, stay safe, and we look forward to serving you soon.
Sports 56 would like to recognize local businesses that are out there still feeding and providing for the community via curbside pickup. Let's support local business with your business. These local businesses include Shelby Forest General Store, Let It Fly, Moon Dance Grill, Great Wines, Germantown Wines and Liquors, Corks Wines and Liquors. Sports 56 appreciates the support of local businesses always, but especially during this time. Thank you.
There's a new commissary in town in Collierville. Germantown Commissary is doubling. Yeah, they're still going to have the old Germantown Commissary by the tracks, but now there's a huge new Germantown Commissary in Collierville at Poplar and Houston Levee Road. It's huge, too. There's a drive-through. There's plenty of parking, no telephone pole to get in your way, a cool patio. It's right by the track, so the tradition continues. And this is a tradition that's been around forever. That commissary is famous for hickory-smoked, slow-cooked Memphis-style barbecue. They've got a private party room at the new one in Collierville. Self-catering still continues. Party packs for $5.95. Basically, the great ribs, the great pulled shoulder, the great deviled eggs. Everything is there in Collierville and Germantown now. So there is now a Germantown and Collierville style of barbecue. It's called Germantown Commissary.
I Buy Houses, 901-406-1101. That's 901-406-1101. I Buy Houses. I Buy Houses will buy a house in any area, in any condition, and yes, it's guaranteed to close in 5 days. If you need to sell your home quickly, call 901-406-1101. If you've been through a divorce, if you lost your job, if you're tired of renters, I Buy Houses can get you your money quickly. I Buy Houses will buy your home in Shelby County, DeSoto County, Memphis, Bartlett, South Haven, Horn Lake, Olive Branch, anywhere and everywhere in between in any condition. And yes, they're open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. I Buy Houses, 901-406-1101. That's 901-406-1101. Grab that pen, 901-406-1101. I Buy Houses.
Now, back to Sports Time on Sports 56 with Wolo and Stats. This hour of Sports Time is brought to you by Lexus of Memphis. Here once again are Dave Woloshin and Brett Norsworthy.
Our friend Joe Birch from Action News 5, he's up next, but I want to tell you about Jason's Deli. You know about Jason's Deli, and they appreciate everybody being patient during this time, as we all have to be. They're like everyone else. They are eager for that safe and smart reopen. They're getting prepared for it, but you can get all the great food at Jason's Deli, just about all of it on the menu. Takeout, they have been catering to so many different businesses during this time. Wholesome food forever. It's a family thing at Jason's Deli, where it's all about choice, regardless if you seek a gluten-free menu. Vegetarian sandwiches, healthy kids meals. If you'd like to invent your sandwich via the Build Your Own selection, you'll be delighted at Jason's Deli. Any of the locations, and they are ready to get back open for all the great friends and customers, and we're ready to see them again, aren't we? Locations on Ridgeway Road, Poplar and Highland, Olive Branch, and Cordova. Catering anytime, anywhere, all the organic food, all the great salads, all the great meats, cheeses, spreads, breads, all the soups, all the fantastic food at Jason's Deli. Again, locations on Ridgeway Road, Poplar and Highland, Olive Branch, and Cordova. Check them out online as well at jasonsdeli.com. It was fun a few weeks ago to visit with Joe Birch, Dave, and it is going to be fun again today to visit with him.
Well, I think he is Mr. Steady. He's the longest-running network anchor that we've got, and he is, as you said to me in a text last night when I informed you that we had Joe Birch, he's the Walter Cronkite of Memphis. So, Joe, can I give you a better intro than that?
You can't ask for that, my friend. And you know where I go every Wednesday when they're open? Jason's Deli. There's a whole group of guys I meet over there at noon on Wednesdays over at Poplar and Highland. We have a big time together every Wednesday over there. So when things get back to normal, I'll see you all over there on Wednesday at noon.
That's the deal.
When are they getting back to normal, Joe?
Well, I got to ask him this. When you're there, how much of that ice cream do you eat, Joe?
You know, I park myself by the, I got a secret about that, I use my drink cup, this is the way a news anchor gets a little extra, so I use my drink cup to get a little extra ice cream, and usually my wife's not there, so I get away with it,
Well, Joe, Dave is a known poacher. He's been caught just sneaking into the Jason's Deli and getting ice cream and really not getting any sandwich.
Oh, is that right? Oh, man.
Oh, yeah.
That is made up. That's just made up. So I want to get into a lot of the pandemic changes since we spoke with you when this story really first started to occur. But I do want to let you plug what I think is going to be a very important happening tonight. And I'm sort of confused. I wasn't sure if this was on Action News 5 or is it on Bounce or is it Zoom? You've got a town hall meeting today with 8 different leaders. How are you doing that?
Right. So it's a bit of a technological miracle that we're going to try to pull off tonight at 7 on WMC TV, the big TV station, as well as our website and our Facebook page. So those are the platforms where you can see this 1-hour town hall meeting called The Road to Reopening. And we are going to have 8 guests, and we're thrilled that Mayor Jim Strickland and Mayor Lee Harris will be joining us. We have Beverly Robertson from the Greater Memphis Area Chamber of Commerce. And we also have West Memphis Mayor Marco McClendon, the South Haven Mayor Darren Musselwhite, the Clarksdale, Mississippi Mayor Chuck Espy, as well as some healthcare experts, Dr. John McCullers, who is the expert that we've all gotten to know a little better from the University of Tennessee Health Sciences Center, who is an infectious disease expert. He's also the physician-in-chief and pediatrician-in-chief at Le Bonheur. And Dr. Elisa Householder from the health department. She is the head of the health department. So we're going to have 8 guests, and they're going to be on Zoom. And we've been working for the last 24 hours on making sure that we can get the Zoom images and sound on television, and we think we have figured that out. And so 7 o'clock tonight, we're going to be trying to go for the answers that, everybody wants to know. When are we going to reopen? Well, what I know at this point is that the epidemiologists are going to have the big say. So in the back to business plan that the mayors unveiled yesterday, the discussion is about a 14-day trend of downward case growth, right? So we We want to see fewer and fewer cases, or at least a plateau consistent over 14 consecutive days. The reason for 14 days is that is, how long we're contagious with this thing if we are positive. And so, and then, the opportunity to recover from it, hopefully. So there you go. I mean, it's going to be a good hour, I think, a time well spent tonight at 7 on the TV station, on Facebook, and on our website, WMCActionNews5.com. Yeah, live stream.
Joe, as you address these leaders tonight, what's the first thing that is on your mind? We know they've already given us phase one. I guess it would be how we establish it, and they've talked a little bit about contact tracing. We've talked about a decrease or stability in the amount of cases, but we've also heard about the economy and how hurting so many people in this community are. What do you think the trade-off is, and how far away do you think we are from opening this thing?
Well, it's not for me to say. It's for them. And I'm sure they never expected this when they ran for this office, but now it's their call. They ran for the job, and this is fallen into their lap as the fates would have it. And so, I know there's tremendous pressure in the business community to get things going again. A couple of examples. I know in the hospitality industry, which is suffering tremendously. You drive down Union Avenue, you don't see anybody standing out in front of the Sun Studio like you always do. And that's a huge driver, the Elvis crowd that comes here all year long from all over the world. Well, they're not there taking a picture outside of Sun and going to Graceland and staying at the hotels and eating in our restaurants. They're sheltering in place in their respective cities. And so there's tremendous pressure in the business community to get things going again. I heard a report this morning from an insider in the hospitality industry that the Peabody, which is our great benchmark for our community, right? At the South Grand Hotel usually has 500 employees on staff, is down in the 90 range at the moment. Mm-hmm. And there's a hotel right across the street that usually has about 90 on staff that's down to 6 at the moment. And so, there's tremendous pressure to get these businesses back open again and going. But I think the mayors wisely are allowing science and the health experts to look at the data and to determine the best path forward as we see a downward trend. Some good news just came out of the governor's news conference. The health director in the state of Tennessee said we've had the lowest day-over-day growth ever so far today in Tennessee. So that would have been looking at yesterday, so April 27th. The growth was overall, day over day the lowest ever. But one day does not a trend make, right? So we have to get this. For in the mayors of here in Shelby County, they want to see a 14-day trend where they feel like, okay, we're clearly social distancing, we're clearly wearing our masks, we're clearly doing all the things, washing our hands, and so it's safe to try in a phased way to reopen. But
Joe,
the challenge.
I'm sorry, Joe. You make a great point about the politicians. They didn't ask for this. None of them really signed up for this, but they all tell us at some point during the election, I'll be prepared on day one. Well, I don't know how any of them, every one of them does it forever in every campaign. I don't know how you can do it because you have no idea what's coming at you over the term of your office. And but it's also why I have been reluctant to play the blame game right now. There will be a time and place for that. And ultimately for all the politicians, the time and place for the blame game will be Election Day.
Yeah, that's right. And nobody asked for this. And, certainly in the local government, really, that's never come up as a question before. This is my first pandemic. I hope it's our last. The question about epidemics generally doesn't come up, in politics. But I think it will be. an issue going forward from now on. And, because this whole experience has revealed a lot of the fissures that exist in our community in terms of who is getting health care and how it's being delivered and who can afford it. And, there's a whole wide array of issues about nutrition, about, proper health that we have to address in the city. And I think from now on in this country, I think this is going to be this is definitely a road we don't want to go down again ever, right? And so we're all going to be on point to look for leaders who are going to be trying to head off this kind of thing and have a preparation and a plan in place. And even in local government, what is your plan, Mr. Candidate, Ms. Candidate, for, an epidemic should one arise like what happened in 2020?
I think that's the majority of the stories that you'll be doing as we enter the final phases of recovery. It'll be, what have we learned? And, for instance, what will they do? And let's pray they never need the commercial appeal auxiliary hospital with the 1,500 beds that they are putting into that space. But do we say, you know what? We're keeping that there with all those ventilators and everything else just in case it comes back in the fall. What are the lessons that we learn from this going forward? Like you mentioned, a much more equitable healthcare opportunity for all socioeconomic backgrounds.
Right, yeah. Well, it does seem a little, quite a juxtaposition, if you will, that we are talking about reopening, and, most of the counties of Tennessee are reopening, but we are building an emergency hospital just to have on the side. On one hand, we're reopening. On the other hand, we're saying we want to be ready just in case there's a spike. And our whole hospital system, Baptist, Methodist, Regional 1, Le Bonheur, the whole standard hospital community in our St. Francis, in our town, is overwhelmed by another spike, that we're going to have this hospital over at the commercial appeal, and then if we need it, God forbid we need it, another one over there on Jackson Avenue at the Gateway Shopping Center. I believe that's a Bell's property. And so it's quite a, it's on one hand we're reopening sort of, and on the other hand we're getting ready for a spike, because I think anybody who knows these kinds of respiratory illnesses knows that hospital is clearly a wise investment right now. Yeah. And so we're going to have Dr. Householder from the health department and John McCullers, our infectious disease expert from UT, talk about all these things tonight, as well as our mayors. They'll be addressing all this tonight at 7 on WMC, as well as on all our digital platforms.
I'm so confident that will be pulled off. Look, if the NFL could do, I don't know how many different cameras they had going with Zoom.
Joe,
I know you can do it with those 8 different leaders. There's just so many different angles. What if there is a story that has touched you thus far, Joe Birch, from this? And it could be on the medical side, it could be on the economic side. Your numbers on those hotel employees is just mind-boggling. What's the story that has touched you the most?
Well, the thing that broke my heart the most was Dan Spector, the death of Dan Spector, who's the incredible artist who used to be based over on, he had a studio on Broad, and he passed away. And, that starting to know people who have passed away, there are people in my faith community who have been deeply affected by this, and one gentleman I know who's passed on very recently. And so, it's really hit home. That is really glaring when you're looking at your friends and, acquaintances, people who from riding your bicycle down Broad Avenue to going to church at your house of worship, and your smiling faces that you're used to seeing and saying hey to are no longer with us. that's the thing that's really broken my heart the most. And I'll tell you what, we did a Zoom reunion with my siblings. I'm the oldest of 5 Birch kids. It's Joseph, Patrick, Marianne, Kathleen, and James. A good Irish crowd, right?
Oh, love it.
You know, the Catholics, they only have a certain number of names. They keep recycling the same ones. And so we had a Zoom reunion for the first time on Sunday, and my brother-in-law is a retired New Jersey state trooper, and he was telling us how every time he logs on, it's so depressing because he knows someone else, a retired state trooper who's, New Jersey is much more affected than our area at this time, and they've really had a scourge there. But New York, New Jersey, and the Northeast has really been hit hard. But I mean, it's so that hits home. That just hits home when our friends and our relatives start naming names, of people who've gone by. In the world globally, there's 3,041,912 cases today. And yesterday, there were 70,000 new cases across the world. The total across the entire globe is 211,167 deaths. So, it's a global pandemic. 4,623 people died yesterday across the whole worldwide world. And here in Shelby County, really, I think our numbers are manageable at this point. But honestly, we don't know because the testing has been so limited. And I guess this is one of the areas that I'm going to get into tonight, is because the testing has been so limited, it's hard to know really where we are, right? So,
right.
So, one way to, quote, box in this thing is through testing. This is the way we have to do it. So if you're trying to box in coronavirus, testing is the way you find out who's got it, right? And then you isolate those people. That's one side of the box. And then you do trace contacting you contact all the people and trace all the people that the people who have tested positive been contacted in. That's another part of the box. And then you isolate them. And those are the 4 corners of the box: testing, isolation of those positive, contact tracing, and then isolating the contact traced people so that they sit home for a couple of weeks and are not contagious. And because the testing, is sort of so all over the map, it's in one part of the region it's available, and in other parts it's scarce. It's becoming more and more available, but it still isn't as widely done as I think everybody.
Well, we've only had 25,000 tests, so you're right on that. The only positive I get out of that, honestly, Joe, is that there's probably a lot more people that have it that we know, but we do know the accurate number of 46 deaths, which would tell you that it's much lower than anybody had ever thought it would be, and God willing, that continues. Joe, we will watch you tonight. I know there will be a number that will be watching you on the news, and then they'll watch your town hall at 7. And thank you for being on with us, and please stay healthy.
You too. You guys, you do the same, and I'll see you all at Jason's Deli on Wednesdays at noon when everything gets back to normal.
That's a day.
You got it, Joe Birch.
All right, thank you all.
Thank you, Joe. We appreciate it. We got to take a break. We're late for that. This is Sports Time on Sports 56.
Broadcasting from the Family Leisure Studio, we are Sports 56, 96.1 and 87.7.
At AutoZone, we're here to help you get what you need, and that won't change. In need of an oil change? Right now, you can get 5 quarts of Pennzoil Platinum Full Synthetic Motor Oil, an STP Extended Life Oil Filter, and a $15 AutoZone gift card by mail or email, all for just $33.99. And if you need something fast, you can get it fast. Your way, whether it's next-day delivery or free same-day pickup, in-store or curbside. The choice is yours. Get in the zone. AutoZone. Restrictions and details on AutoZone.com.
These are unprecedented times, which are causing a lot of stress and financial worry for millions of Americans. But here's some good news. If you owe back taxes to the IRS, Optima Tax Relief can reduce the stress in your life by helping you resolve your tax debt right from the safety of your own home. Make no mistake, you don't want to ignore the IRS right now. They can take your paycheck and everything you work so hard for. But with Optima on your side, you may qualify for help that saves you thousands. Their tax professionals specialize in the Fresh Start Initiative, one of the biggest breaks the IRS has ever offered. Optima is A-plus rated with the Better Business Bureau and has resolved over $1 billion of tax debt for taxpayers across the nation. So now's the time for tax help you need, for tax help you trust. Call Optima now for a free consultation.
Call 800-473-9933. 800-473-9933. 800-473-9933.
Optima Tax Relief.
Some restrictions apply. For complete details, please visit OptimaTaxRelief.com.
Between panic buying and the large number of newly unemployed, food shortages are at an all-time high. Today, people who never dreamt they would need help feeding themselves or their families are showing up for food assistance. This Thursday, listen to this station and others nationwide as we raise funds for Feeding America. With your help, we'll restock food banks. Feeding America, a life-saving source of hope and help for millions. Listen this Thursday and please help if you can.
I'm Dr. George Flynn, president of Flynn Broadcasting. On behalf of everyone associated with Flynn Broadcasting, we want to wish you good health, especially in this coronavirus situation. You can be the hero. All you have to do is practice social distancing. That's right, 6 feet away from other people, and you'll be part of the solution, not part of the problem. Also, if you feel ill and have a cough or fever, get tested so you'll know if you have coronavirus or not. I'm Dr. George Flynn with Flynn Broadcasting. We'll keep you connected while you maintain your physical social distance. So keep listening to this Flynn Broadcasting station because we're in this fight with you and we're going to help you stay connected.
Now, back to Sports Time on Sports 56 with Wolo and Stats. This hour of Sports Time is brought to you by Lexus of Memphis. Here once again are Dave Woloshin and Brett Norsworthy.
Among many subjects to get into with Bo Marchand at 5 o'clock will be this one. The Green Bay Packers not only drafted a first-round quarterback, they moved up to draft him, and now the trade rumors, air quotes here, around the league about Aaron Rodgers. He's not going to be traded. The cap hit for anybody would be so penal that nobody could even dream of taking him this year or maybe even next year. But it feels like it's on a bad way for the Packers. You remember in the NFC Championship game just how listless they and he individually and collectively that they looked, Dave. They didn't even compete in the NFC Championship game. It wasn't even close to being a game.
Well, they look like a team, that had a very fortunate schedule last year. If you look at the teams they played, including my Bears, it was not the most difficult of schedules, and it's a much harder schedule this year. They're a year older, their quarterback is a year older, and he seems to be one of those guys, and I didn't think this was going to be the way he would in the very beginning, but he's one of those guys that does not seem to be a galvanizing figure. He seems to be the opposite way of that. And as the thing gets a little bit rougher, I don't know how good this is going to be. He got rid of the coach before this one, and I think this one can coach, but we'll have to wait and see how it all evolves. But I think the Packers are definitely on a downward trend, and I may say that with some hope, considering I'm a Bears fan. But in really trying to be an evaluator here, I think the Packers are definitely on the downside.
Their Vegas season over-under total wins moved from 10 to 9 today. That's big because we know it's kind of a 9-7 league, kind of a 3 to 6 point league, and kind of a 8, 9, 10 win league as well for every team. At the end of it, and Bo Marchand, I'll give him credit. He started on this several years ago, not in a critical way whatsoever, just when it's all over. And if Aaron Rodgers just He just has that one Super Bowl. It won't. I mean, he's walking into Canton, first ballot, unanimously, easily. But when you start thinking about great Packers quarterbacks, he's going to be third. Bart Starr with 5 titles, I still think is number 1, and most everybody else thinks Brett Favre is. But they will be 1 and 2, and Aaron Rodgers will be 3 there. And then you go around the league. It could take a while in a top 10 before you got to him, but you would get to him in a top 10, wouldn't you? All time?
Probably so. I think you have to, just based on numbers. And his teams have always been competitive, and I can't tell you how clutch he's been, particularly against his number 1 rival, the Chicago Bears. He has just willed
and with
his
the Hail
team.
Marys.
He's willed his team to victory so many times it's made my stomach be queasy. But I would agree he's probably third on that, that roster. I would probably have. I know all those titles went to Bart Starr, 5 of them, but Bart Starr was handing that ball off a lot to Paul Hornung.
He's MVP of Super Bowl 1 and 2.
Yeah. Max McGee was the guy that made. I mean, those passes were not exactly the greatest that Max McGee made circus catches on. Not to take anything away from Bart Starr, but I think Brett.
But you're taking it away from him.
Well, I think it's a little like Jim McMahon and the Bears. I mean, there were a lot of reasons why the Bears won, and McMahon's one of them. But I don't think he's the most important.
Not even close to a comparison. Not even close to a comparison. What Bart Starr, if they had, we saw the fall after he retired.
I'm not saying Bart Starr is not a Hall of Famer, but I think if I were choosing the number 1 guy, I would probably have to go with Brett Favre. The game changed,
but he won just one as well.
He did. He sure did.
He did. He won just one as well. Close to wrapping up hour number 1. We got a lot left today. Brent Beard, Rex Hoggard, Bo Marchant. But I want to tell you about All-Star Chevrolet, our friends at All-Star Chevrolet in Olive Branch. They've heard from so many of you who really want to buy a new Chevy or need service or parts right now, and they are listening. All-Star Chevy, they've got financing as low as 0 interest for as much as 84 months. That's 7 years, and you can be payment-free for up to 4 months. But your safety is number 1 at All-Star Chevrolet. Everyone at All-Star Chevy, they're doing everything to provide service, parts, anything you need in the safest possible way you need them. They can pick up and deliver your vehicle for service and even deliver parts if you want. But everything is clean. Everything is sanitized. Everything is safe for you to visit anytime. Call for an appointment or find what you want online, and someone at All-Star will arrange a virtual test drive or a safer test behind the wheel. A Silverado, a Traverse, the all-new Blazer, maybe a new Suburban or Equinox. Remember, it's not the Pike, not South Haven, not Mount Moriah or Collierville. Find new roads to All-Star Chevy in Olive Branch, or go to allstarautogroup.com today. Call ahead for appointment if that works for you, but get down to All-Star Chevrolet in Olive Branch. Hour 2's next, and up next to start Hour 2, it's Brent Beard. You're listening to Sports Time on Sports 56 with Wolo and Stats on AM 560, 87.7, and 96.1 FM.
At CDW, we get your organization can be demanding.
We know you're in there.
I know. The marketing team's outside my office. They want their Adobe update now.
Give us that update.
With Adobe's Value Incentive Plan, deployed by the experts at CDW, you can quickly and easily manage software subscriptions for the whole team.
On Acrobat and Creative Cloud?
All included.
Cool. Guys, I'm coming out. Don't hurt me.
Hey, there he
For
is.
a satisfied digital workforce, you need Adobe and IT orchestration by CDW. People who get it. Find out more at cdw.com/Adobe.
Ugh, those nachos were rough on my stomach.
When you have nausea, heartburn, indigestion, upset stomach, diarrhea.
Try Pepto-Bismol liquid caps for fast relief and ultra coating.
Nausea, heartburn, indigestion.
Pepto-Bismol liquid caps. Use as directed.
Let's say you just bought a house. Bad news is, you're one step closer to becoming your parents. You'll proudly mow the lawn. Ask if anybody noticed you mowed the lawn. Tell people to stay off the lawn. Compare it to your neighbor's lawn. And complain about having to mow the lawn again. Good news is, it's easy to bundle home and auto through Progressive and save on your car insurance, which, of course, will go right into the lawn. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company, affiliates, and other insurers. Discount not available in all states or situations.
Sports 56 would like to recognize local businesses that are out there still feeding and providing for the community via curbside pickup. Let's support local business with your business. These local businesses include Central Barbecue, Sunrise, Sweetgrass, Humdingers, Germantown Commissary, Jason's Deli, Corky's, East Coast Wings, Moe's, and Soulfish Cafe. Sports 56 appreciates the support of local businesses always, but especially during this time. Thank you.
We are Sports 56 WHBQ Memphis, WIVG-FM Tunica Memphis, and WPG-FLP Memphis. Flynn Broadcasting Stations. Now, more of Sports Time on Sports 56 with Wolo and Stats. This hour of Sports Time is brought to you by Homer Skelton Hyundai. Here once again are Dave Woloshin and Brad Norsworthy.
Hour 2 starts now. We visit with Brent Beard at this time every Tuesday. He is a college football analyst for First Coast News in Jacksonville, Heisman Trophy voter, co-host of College Sports Today on Sports Radio 9:30 a.m. in Jacksonville, and you can follow him on the Twitter machine at Brent, B-R-E-N-T, Beard, B-E-A-I-R-D, and we will visit with him about the magazine season. It's soon to begin, and I think they might have record sales this year with people just wanting anything to look at and just turn the pages. I know the magazine business and the rollout of the football magazines, it's been very different in the internet age. I think this year going and buying just an old-fashioned magazine might have a little increased business this year. Brent Beard, good afternoon, Brent. And Athlons, they're ready to unveil.
And I do multiple segments during the week, and I've got the last year's magazines within reach. And we use them, 4 or 5 times a week, just to have the rosters and the depth charts and things like that. Are they dated? Of course they are, but at the same time, you can have them at your fingertips. But Brett, you're right. I mean, what we saw today is an Athlons looking at June the 2nd. And look, if at this point by the middle end of May, everybody gets the all clear and they start getting excited, I don't have anything to look at. Man, that's right. When those things hit the shelves, there may be a lot more interest than there normally is.
Brent, we got a report yesterday, and it was from Dennis Dodd, and I've looked up from the trying to remember the website of it. It's the Chronicle of Higher Education. All those that are committing now to having campus classes. So that's the first prerequisite. I think we all agree that if you're going to play college football this fall, that you are going to have to commit that you're going to have on-campus classes. And a whole bunch of schools have come forward and committed to that already. They're all hedging it by saying that they will resume campus operations this fall if governmental and medical authorities say it's to do so. That's the majority theme. That is a direct quote from Marquette University. Ohio State is leaning toward in-person classes, and we read Oregon a little bit earlier, where Oregon was saying that's their intent to do that. The question is, yesterday, I believe Michigan State claimed they were probably not going to have on-campus classes that particular semester. What happens with that? Will we actually see, in your mind, where there will be some major Power 5 schools that are going to go, we're sitting out this football season?
That's a great question, Dave, and you're seeing that being discussed a little bit at this point. There are a couple of things that has come out over the last few days. One is Ray Tanner, who is the AD at South Carolina, was talking to the Board of Trustees, and as he put it, the conferences might not be aligned when it comes to bringing football back, and it may be left up to the conferences. So what does that mean? Does that mean there's a possibility the SEC and the may play this year, and Pac-12 or someone else of that nature may not, and we're not saying they are. We'll be careful about that, but that's been floated out there a little bit. Now, and you mentioned Oregon, Oklahoma, Nebraska, Missouri, Iowa State have been others that have told Dennis Dodd that they plan on being back. And again, what we have heard in our discussion over the last few weeks is one of the major important things about having a season would be having students on campus, and that would certainly fit that degree. Now, Brett can speak on this obviously more too, but Keith Carter from Ole Miss said that, I believe it was today, that they're hoping to get the student athletes back to campus by July 1 if all the guidelines allow that. So I think what's important is they're at least making plans in order to do so before we have the line drawn in the sand either way, probably later in May.
And we have unfortunately learned, and David and we talked about it a little bit about an hour ago, Brent, we have learned the thing about plans, they can change. I mean, we never would have if you would have told any of us, heck, on March 1st, never mind on January 1st, as we were ringing in the new year, there's not going to be a Final Four this year. We wouldn't have taken that person seriously. And I remember the day during our show that the news broke about the postponement of the Masters at an Augusta National statement, and I was shocked by it. And we had a texter that said, "Oh, come on, Brett, you sound like somebody just died. It's just a golf tournament." Well, it is, but also know that bunch doesn't get rocked and quaked very often. They're not very scared of a whole lot. If they had to have the Masters with no TV and no fans and just their green-jacketed members, they would do it and be quite fine with it. They do not care what the rest of the world thinks about what they're doing. So when you have no Masters at the traditional date, you have no Final Four. Brent, we sadly know that plans for Tuesday, April 28th can change by May 28th.
Well, they really can, or if not sooner, frankly. But I think for a lot of us, when the NBA shut down or they announced that, basically the dominoes, in many ways, along with what Brett said about the Masters, began to fall into place at this point too. Now I don't know if bizarre is the right word, but this whole thing has been bizarre. But, the thing you've also heard from Bob Bowlesby of the Big 12 is what is a contingency plan to start on time, play as much as you can. If for some reason this thing comes back with vengeance, pick it up in the spring. Now, how doable that is, goodness, who knows? But at the same time, I think what is heartening to some degree is you're beginning to see some loosening here. I mean, the beaches are open here. There's some other businesses that are going to start opening next week. And again, does this all tie together? Yes, it does, and no, it doesn't. So you can look at it both ways. But, it heartens me a little bit that at least we're seeing a little more progress, or at least some intentionality that we want to have a season.
I'm with you there, but when you bring up what Bowlesby I think was inferring was, well, you know what? Yeah. Let's really plan on this, and if indeed these first plans fall apart, we'll bring it back in spring. Can you really do that? Honestly,
no.
That is so easy to say.
Yeah,
but I want to know how ESPN is going to program that. I want to know how if you've got stadiums that are leased out other places in basketball, how all of that could possibly work out. I think for the majority, the football stadiums are owned or they're the main tenants of the ballparks that they play in. But still, there could be some scheduling conflicts there. I mean, it's just not easy to say, okay, we're going to do this, and then if that happens, we're going to do this, and then if that happens, we're going to do this. This is too big to do that.
Yeah, agreed. And look, and it's not fair to some of these other sports either. It's not fair to baseball and basketball, and we all love football. We know it pays the bills, but at the same time, I mean, to me, guys, my goodness, how many players would you lose between? I mean, let's just pretend here for a minute that you had to end the season the week of Thanksgiving and you couldn't pick it back up again until Valentine's Day or something like that. I mean, and then you were talking about a recruiting class, and then you were talking about what would normally happen in January, which is preseason. So, without blaming the point here, you're right. It would be a mammoth task, even if they tried to do it.
Well, in these times, you could have this easily occur. You could have somebody play in that first phase for you, and then we stop and pause, and he enters the transfer portal and comes back and plays against you in the second phase.
They could take you on. Huh?
Hey, Brett, I'll give you another one. And Dave, he could transfer, then he could transfer back. How about that?
Yeah. Then he possibly could. He could be the hero of opening day and the hero of the Red River rivalry, and then come back and play against you in the bowl game. Yeah. It's crazy times. There's a lot being thrown out, and Brent, I know I'm kind of a one-man band on this. But you see pretty good. Well, you saw a lot of good leadership from Roger Goodell as the face man in the front man for the NFL. You see it from Adam Silver, poor old Rob Manfred. He tries. Gary Bettman tries. Mm-hmm. There's a whole lot of different voices in the college football world, and I don't think. I like Greg Sankey, but I don't think his is loud enough, and I don't think it was, Brent, around the basketball tournament closures. It felt to me, and I will ask Greg this if we have SEC Media Days or next time we have him on, it felt to me like he was waiting for somebody else to make that decision that day, and it feels like this here, Brent.
Yeah, I agree. I would agree with that, which is brought into the question of should football have a czar? Have one person that's basically an overall or I hate to use the word commissioner, but you know what I'm talking about, is having someone in charge that would kind of be the final voice. Is what it amounts to now. I've always thought that college football would benefit from a czar just to help it with some off-season publicity that it really needs, because the NFL, and I know the NFL is a different animal, but the NFL is in the news all the time. The problem is with colleges, that's not the case. But
the off-season is usually a nightmare.
Yeah, it is. So would we, and I wonder, Brent and Dave, when the smoke clears from this, and we're a little more so in our thinking, and can look forward and plan a little bit, could this situation usher in, for better lack of a word, a czar in a few years?
I just don't see how that could happen unless there was somebody that was from that sport that was so well liked and respected on a national basis, they all believed in him. Here's the problem. The power brokers are 5, the commissioners of each conference. And the way the game has been grown throughout the years from the 30s on, it's all about me. It's all about my conference, what I can do, my school will cheat, will look the other way.
Yeah.
And I hate to say it, but that's just the way this game has grown, and the powers want to hold on to that power. I cannot see Greg Sankey relinquishing power to somebody who's going to tell him how his football should be played. Same thing for the Pac-12, same thing for Bowlesby, same thing for what happens in the ACC, because they think they know what's best for their region, their schools, and they're not going to accept anybody telling them what to do. It would have to be, and I don't think there's a human being right now that's alive. It'd have to be like Newt Rockne, with that kind of popularity from back then, to have that kind of sway.
I think the only guy who could have done that would have been Mike Slive. I think Slive is one of the few human beings. Now catch my wording here. I think he's one of the few human beings who could have gotten that group into consensus. I don't mean that they're unanimous. I mean that they are in consensus, meaning that you would have more of a majority that would be ruling in that. I just think that he would have been one of the few people with the skills that he had and the respect that he had that could have done it. But your point's well taken. It would be.
Let me play devil's advocate to that for just a second. And there's no bigger Mike Slive fan than me. I knew Mike personally. I worked with him a bunch, doing interviews for the network that he put together with the Great Midwest, and became a personal friend of his, and loved him. But Bob Delaney, or Jim Delaney, or Gene Corrigan, or any of those other powers that be from that era, they liked Mike, but they would not have kowtowed to Mike. I still think, as great as Mike was, and he's the best college commissioner I've ever seen, I don't believe those other people would have just said, he's right.
No, they wouldn't have. They wouldn't have to Roy Kramer.
And that's why. But I do wonder, though, Dave, and as you know him, could he have moved that group to some kind of consensus to where you would have had an overall objective, and at least the other ones would have been heard, and some of their points would have been made in whatever legislation or ruling that he would have come up with.
Well, they did do that. When they went from the BCS to the Power 5, that was a lot of his influence.
True.
Yeah. Brent, one of the amazing things, I've brought it up a couple of times with you during this 47 days of no live sports due to COVID-19, the speed we went, and we've gone to it in the speed of a lot of things, how our lives have been upset. But we went in a blink of an eye of talking about how we're going to pay the players to now we don't have two pennies rubbed together. I know how it happened. I know how it happened, and we see it in a lot of other things. So few people, so few businesses are liquid, even for very, very wealthy people on a financial statement. A financial statement's quite different than reality. You can list a lot on that financial statement. Everybody would list those stadiums everybody has. But you know what those stadiums are worth with nobody in it? Not jack. Zero.
Whatever the price of steel is, maybe, but
or a bulldozer to tear it down.
Right. I wonder, guys, out of this, and again, when we're when a lot of this anxiety is off of us and we can think clearer, I do wonder what. Okay, no one saw this coming, but we've had this experience now. So, what do we do in the future to protect ourselves, more streams of revenue?
Nothing.
I think it's going to be fascinating to see what they come up with. And listen, some of the stuff that Dave, that Brett and I've talked about for almost a decade now, that we didn't think would come into play till to 2030 or 2040. Guys, we may see some of this fall out stuff within 5 years.
Did we really need waterfalls in the locker rooms? Did we really need to tear down perfectly fine, functional indoor practice buildings to build another one? The reason why we did it collectively is because we could. Now we look up, and we're going to have to cut sports. Here's what I'm scared of, and because you're going to have to stay in compliance with Title IX. That's going to remain the law, and it should for opportunity. Now, it's already the hard to match the scholarships 1-for-1 because of the great number from football. For men's to the women's department. Football's always been the thing. If you're viewing the scales of justice, that really tips the scales. Here's what I think is going to happen to try to stay somewhat in compliance and not decimate women's athletics departments. We're going to have a round of scholarship cuts. I'm going to say about 5 to 10 in football and 2 to 3 in men's basketball.
Yeah, you can see that coming. Lord, I hope they don't cut more in baseball than they have. But yes, I've thought about that lately to see how that would be. And guys, I really wonder if some of these building projects that are in plans right now may be on hold. Certainly some of these coaches buyouts, I think they're going to maybe look at those differently. But again, Brett and Dave, my concern again with this is when the smoke clears is how we know the big boys will be okay. My concern now, and it has been for a long time, is can the non-Power Fives grow and blossom with what's coming over the next few years, or are they going to have to take a real hard turn to the right or the left, not politically speaking, but just in direction, and start really doing more of their own thing to survive?
I think so much of that will be determined by how academically that side of a campus does with money.
Yeah.
Because so many of the group of 5 schools are supported by a large amount of university funding. And if they're hurting financially, then they're just going to have to cut their budgets because they won't have the money to do it. Whereas in the Power 5, the television revenues and the stadium revenues are so large, they don't depend on student fees or the institution's financing to exist. Now, if they get hurt because the television money doesn't come in this year and or they can't have 92,000 people in a stadium, well then Brett's right. They just won't be able to build a waterfall, or they won't be able to knock down an 8-year-old indoor to build a brand new one. And they won't be involved in the way. And I'll tell you what, the other thing that'll go away for them.
I wonder how this virtual school is going to affect the colleges, or some of them going to say, this worked out so well, and it may save us some money. We may continue this for a little bit. I just don't know. But that's a great point. You wonder how the academic side's going to adjust to this too.
Brent, I thank you for your time today. We'll do it again next Tuesday and maybe have a little more clarity and be a little closer to some answers. We know May's going to be a very deciding month on a lot of fronts. Well, thank you for your time.
Listen, we will. I think we'll know, guys, basically around a month from now, what we're going to be able to do and not do, or at least somewhat of a schedule. Do we start on time? Do we start in October? Or are we looking at something again in this spring type thing? So I agree with that wholeheartedly.
Yeah, at least in a month.
Thank you, Brent. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Brent.
My pleasure.
In a month, we'll have a sense of whether or not we opened too quickly, because we'll either have a spike or we won't, or we'll have more deaths or we won't. And, obviously, we're all praying that we won't.
Dave, March and April has seemed like we've been in very defensive mode. We've been in the middle of illness and death and depravity and sadness. May, it feels like, will be a little bit on the offense to try to get that clarity and try to find out if there's some true light at the end of this tunnel. We'll find out. Dave, it scares me to think that if college football had to cut 5, not as much, but 10, if you had to go from 85 to 75, I don't see how in the world we could continue playing a 12-game schedule if you're going to reduce the roster. We sure couldn't expand it. I don't know that we could even expand playoffs. It'd be hard to ask that not small but smaller number of players to play that many games. But here's my real point. If we got down to 75, you'd see a lot more two-way football. You'd see a guy logging plays on both sides of the ball with more frequency than we even do now.
You might, but I got to remind you, FBS, 1AA, they play 65. They play two platoons. They don't have too many two-way players, and they do it just fine. They play 12 games. I don't think their injuries are any more than they are at the FBS level.
It's the same thing, but it's different.
Well, possibly. It's certainly bigger and faster, so you are open to more injuries. But I don't. I mean, I think if we look at those kind of numbers, first of all, I don't think you'd lose 10. I think you'd lose 5, and that could very well happen. I think there will come a time, because of economics, that we will come to some normalcy on Title IX. I believe in Title IX, and I believe in equal opportunity, and I'm glad that there are scholarships for women that can go and get educated, and they can do the things they love to do, too, when it comes to athletics. And they should have that right. But football is a separate entity, and honestly, football is the engine that pays for them. I've always believed that they should make a ruling where wherever we are with the number of sports that women have and those scholarships, those should be locked in. You can't decrease them. If you want to add, that is just fine. Don't decrease them. But you have to take out of the equation the amount of scholarships that you have on football, because there's no sport that's equal, and football is paying the way. Now,
That's
some
a great
of those
point,
other
but it's gone
schools,
nowhere in the past. That argument's gone nowhere in the past.
We've never been here in the past. We've never been to the point where we may
I would say the cards got redealt, yes.
Yeah, we may be out of business if we don't think a little bit more realistically. That's what they do at Homer Skelton Hyundai and Genesis of Olive Branch. They think logically, they think service-oriented, they think product. Oh, my goodness, the products, the Genesis and the Hyundai, that product is so good you get a 10-year, 100,000-mile limited powertrain warranty, and, of course, they're always thinking out of the box at Craft Road and Highway 78, first exit in Mississippi on Highway 78. Hey, look, this is the first of all the auto groups that I know that had not only that 10-year, 100,000-mile limited powertrain warranty, they were the first ones to go, what? We're really going to throw something out here. How about 0% financing, no interest, for 84 months on a note? 84 months. Go get that Genesis. It's affordable if you do 84 months and you do not pay any interest. And hey, here's another little caveat for you. You don't have to make a payment the first 3 months you have the car. 120 days on select models where you don't have to make your first car payment. Go see what I'm talking about. Get on Lamar. That's Highway 78. You'll love what you see at Homer Skelton Hyundai and Genesis of Olive Branch. Golf's on the table. That's next.
Sports 56 Mornings with Peter Edmiston and C.J. Hertz. Weekdays from 7 to 10. Only on Sports 56, 96.1 and 87.7 FM.
Farmers Insurance knows that when you're in the car and that song comes on, yes, that's the one, you have no choice but to pull out your imaginary drumsticks and smash those cymbals and stomp on that kick pedal, which unfortunately is the accelerator pedal. And we covered it. Talk to a farmer's agent who knows a thing or two because they've seen a thing or two.
Call Chad Gatlin at 901-235-1176 or get a fast quote at memphisfarmers.com.
We are farmers. Bum, 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 bum.
Underwritten by Farmers Truck Fire Insurance Exchanges and Affiliates. Products not available in every state.
O'Reilly.
This is Jesse's O'Reilly Auto Parts story.
As a nurse, not making it to work was not an option. But driving through the snow with my wiper blades struggling, I just didn't feel safe. So I pulled into O'Reilly Auto Parts, and before I knew it, an employee was offering to install the wiper blades on my car. I got to stay out of the snow for a moment, and I still made it to work on time.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.
Sports 56 would like to recognize local businesses that are out there still feeding and providing for the community via curbside pickup. Let's support local business with your business. These local businesses include East Memphis Ace Hardware, The Butcher Shop, El Toro Loco on Kirby, Bartlett Small Engines, Spirit Shop Liquor Store, Five Ash Roofing, Tactical Guns and Ammo, and Wolf Chase Lemon Brace. Sports 56 appreciates the support of local businesses always, but especially during this time. Thank you.
Listen Sundays at 11 a.m. to join Idlewild Presbyterian Church for worship. Idlewild is a PCUSA church located in Midtown Memphis.
Hi, I'm Troy Five Ash, owner of Five Ash Roofing. Can anyone explain to me why anyone would care how I measure your roof? We have all heard about measuring your roof from outer space. Well, to be honest, there are aerial pictures that are taken every 4 years that can be used to measure a building, but it's not from outer space. Besides, no one, and I mean no one, can tell you what's wrong with your roof or even if you need one by using pictures that might be 4 years old. If you would rather do business with a family-owned and operated business with a lifelong tie to Memphis that refuses to mislead or use gimmicks, please give me a call. Best products, best warranties, and the best customer service we know how to provide. Five Ash Roofing, proud partner of the Memphis Tigers and the official roofer of the Memphis Tigers home team. Five Ash Roofing, fair, honest, and ethical. 367-0050 or memphisroofer.com. 367-0050 or memphisroofer.com.
Five Ash Roofing, it's what we do. We're here for you.
Now, more of Sports Time on Sports 56 with Wolo and Stats. This hour of Sports Time is brought to you by Homer Skelton Hyundai. Here once again are Dave Woloshin and Brad Norsworthy.
Thank you very much, Drew Barrett. We welcome you back in on this Tuesday afternoon, and we will visit next with Rex Hoggard from the Golf Channel, one of the true esteemed voices and writers chronicling the great game of golf. And, Dave, we're kind of counting down like we do in college football style to the Charles Schwab Classic at Colonial. That's a great tournament, great venue, moved around. It will truly be the first thing to usher sports back in. I don't know how anything could get ahead of that Thursday, June 11. Maybe some things around that time frame.
How about May? And how about Phil and Tiger and
something
Peyton
that counts,
and
not silly
Brady?
Season. Something
I
that
don't know.
counts. That's not going in any history books.
It would intrigue me. It'll get a good number.
We'll find out from Rex Hoggard. He joins us now, and Rex Hoggard from the Golf Channel. The Charles Schwab Classic. Have you ever been so excited about headed to Fort Worth?
No. And as far as the Tiger Phil and Peyton and Tom Brady match, trust me. I mean, you're talking to a guy that turns on ESPN every morning, man. I'm going to watch it. I'm going to watch it more than once, probably.
Yeah.
We will be watching, but we're looking forward to a full field, and it's even going to be an expanded field from what it was going to be to allow a lot of players to get a shot back in. And, Rex, in your heart of hearts, do you really think they're going to be playing golf that Thursday in Fort Worth at Colonial?
I think it's a great line someone brought up the other day when I was doing the show, that optimism is free, right? So it doesn't cost anything. So, yes, in my heart of hearts, I want it to happen, and look, this is all contingent. And I think Max Homa, who would have been the defending champion this week in Charlotte at the Wells Fargo Championship, he did a conference call today, and he was talking about his level of confidence that we can be back playing golf that first week of June. And he had the same optimism because, again, it's free, and we all want it to happen. But he also pointed out that, look, we're going to follow whatever the guidelines are. Like, golf can't dictate when this is over, no more so than the NFL or the NBA or any other sport's going to do it. So you're going to have to follow the guidelines. But I think the PGA Tour has done the right thing. I think the other leagues are starting to do the right thing, setting some sort of date, saying, okay, this is the time. And for the PGA Tour, it's that first week of June. And I think it's a good situation. There's not going to be any fans. They're coming up with a good plan. It's just a matter of if we're far enough along at that point in time, we have enough tests. If everything makes sense, yes, it'd be fantastic.
I think you're right. It's governmental that it will help in a lot of these decisions. The governor of the state of Texas is clearly one that wants to open that state back up as quickly as he possibly can. So I think you'll get cooperation there, and there's no galleries. My thing is a few weeks down the road, because Memphis is supposed to be the second event where there would be fans on the golf course. That's the one I really wonder most about. First of all, you'll have to have governmental help there, and at this point in the state of Tennessee, you can't have a gathering of more than 10 people, so that couldn't happen quite yet. But by then, obviously, we're all hoping that will be the case. But do you think we'll have galleries before this year is out?
I'm a little less optimistic when it comes to that, simply because, we talk about tests, and when you start adding up, doing the math, and figuring out, like even the events that aren't going to have fans, that first event at Colonial, you're still talking about nearly 300 players and caddies. And then it's another 500 to 600 volunteers, because there's still things that need to get done for a tournament. And then probably another 100 PGA Tour officials. And not only are you going to be tested when you arrive on site, you're probably going to be tested before you leave your house. You're probably going to be tested numerous times throughout the week. That's a lot of tests. And now all of a sudden we, pitch it forward to Memphis when you start talking about letting fans on property. I think that's a bit of a long shot. I think we will be playing golf this year. I just don't know when it's going to be with fans.
And that's one thing that we're most concerned about, because I just don't think I don't know how you have sports without fans, because that's what really brings the momentum to an event, and it's how they make their money, Rex.
It is, and we kind of broke this down last week in a story on golfchannel.com. And from the PGA Tour's perspective, it makes sense to play events without fans, right? You could make the same argument for the NBA or Major League Baseball, whatever the case is, because this is TV money. And as long as you're televising some sort of product and the TV folks are going to be happy, there's going to be revenue coming in. When it comes to the PGA Tour, the tournaments themselves and the PGA Tour are two different things. And without fans, the tournaments are definitely going to lose money. There's no doubt about that. Now, you can mitigate that a little bit, and I could imagine, and I think probably the event in your hometown there in Memphis, the FedEx St. Jude Invitational, is a perfect example where you wouldn't necessarily allow fans, but there could be some sort of corporate element where maybe there is a Wednesday Pro-Am, or maybe there is some sort of entertainment, or maybe there is some sort of skybox where all of the rules are followed, that you have social distancing, that you do everything that the government and the health officials are telling us to do, but you're able to do this in a way that at least gives the tournaments themselves an opportunity to at least make this a break-even proposition.
That's interesting, because the WGC does not have a Pro-Am. We've always had a Pro-Am here, with the money all going to St. Jude Children's Research Hospital, and of course that came to a halt once the WGC came. So that would be an actual interesting twist. I don't know how you could end up making up that money for the tournaments. You bring up a very interesting point there, but golf is the perfect sport to be played without people. First of all, the best way to look at it is on TV. If you want to see the tournament itself, it televises great. You can only see one hole and one shot at a time. If you're at the venue itself, you can't say a word while they're swinging. You only make a noise until after the ball hits the green, and usually the guys are 200 yards away when that occurs. So it's the perfect sport, but I don't know how these individual tournaments would make up the revenue. They do get good money from the sponsors, like the Charles Schwab, but if no one plays there, if no one shows up, which is the game plan, so the TV money will come, and the sponsor money will come because they'll still get their spots. But will the Charles Schwab end up being a break-even, or will they lose money the way the financial setup is?
Oh, the way the financial setup is now, they're going to lose money. And the way at least the first four without fans are going to lose money. I don't think there's any way around that. The way it was explained to me by one tournament director, and I've gotten this confirmed in other areas, is that only about 15% of the gate, the people who actually buy a ticket and go out and watch a tournament, only about 15% of a tournament's budget comes from that. 80 to 90% of the tournament's budget comes from what I just talked about, where that's the Pro-Am on Wednesday, or there's also Pro-Ams on Mondays at certain events. There's corporate hospitality, the skyboxes, all of that. That makes up the vast majority of tournaments' income. Now, again, we're not talking about the PGA Tour. We're talking about the individual tournaments. And so without that, of course, they're going to lose money. If you can figure out a way, and talking to tournament directors down the line, and Memphis being one of those probably, they're trying to come up with a way that at least will allow people, certain people, corporate sponsors, that type of thing, and again, in a responsible way, to be on site. Because otherwise, it's going to be a huge financial hit for every tournament that holds an event.
Our guest from the Golf Channel is Rex Hoggard. You see him on Golf Channel, and you read him at golfchannel.com. And he was in Memphis last year for the WGC FedEx St. Jude Invitational, and that had a Sunday finish of renown. It was really good. And then they rematched a few weeks later. I'm talking Rory and Brooks Koepka. This delay, this stoppage, who is it most hurt?
Probably Rory.
What player?
Think about the role he was on. Yeah, I think Rory would be the guy because he was on one of those roles like we saw him on last year. And I can't imagine a way that he doesn't emerge from this still his dominant self, and he comes out and plays well and certainly puts himself in contention. I kind of look at it from the other side, and you look at the guys who had helped the most. I mean, I don't think there's a doubt in that either. It's Tiger Woods, because we didn't know when we were going to see him again. He was clearly dealing with some sort of issues. And so this kind of puts a pause in the entire season, gives him an opportunity to get healthy. And you never know when we're going to come back or when we're going to see him again. But you do know one thing. He will be healthy, and he will be ready to play.
The other guy along those same lines is the guy that won the tournament in Memphis, Brooks Koepka, who clearly was injured after that and was not the same guy.
Absolutely. And it was, the week where they pulled the plug and everything sort of stopped was at the Players' Championship, and he revealed on Wednesday that he had kind of, and it sounded like a panicky move. He had flown the night before after missing the cut the week before at Bay Hill, and he had flown to Vegas and met with Butch Harmon. I mean, he obviously works with Butch's son, Claude, and they still have a very good relationship, but he needed something else. He was looking for something. He was looking for answers. And that's not what we've come to expect from Brooks Koepka. Now, we sort of wrote it off because, let's face it, when it comes to him, we only talk about him in the context of the major championships, and we hadn't gotten to any of those yet. So I was still curious to see how is he going to play at the Masters? How is he going to play at the U.S. Open and the PGA Championship? And that remains to be seen. But, yes, he's another one that I think this pause certainly helps.
Rex, I'm with you on it costs just as much to be optimistic as it does pessimistic. I do like to gauge it all with a healthy dose of realism, but I've got circled Thursday, June 11th. I can't wait for the Charles Schwab at Colonial, at the famed Ben Hogan home course. But, Rex, for somehow, some way, if we had to kick the can again and it got canceled 3 or 4 weeks out, I think that might be the collective point. I know for me, I'll speak individually. For me, that's when I throw my hands up and go, we're never going to be COVID-19 free. It's never happening. We're never having our lives back.
I hope not, because, man, I'm not tired of looking at my family, and that's a terrible thing to say, but I've about had it. I think when it comes to, and there's a very real possibility that you talked about kicking the can, that's a perfect analogy, and that's what's going to end up happening probably. So you look at this as in the PGA Tour had to set a date. They can't suddenly just open up the gates and suddenly the PGA Tour and every other sports league's got to figure out, okay, where do we go from here? Everybody's got to have a plan. And I'll give the Tour credit for having a plan. I can imagine us going through the same exercise a couple weeks from now and them talking about, all right, well, now we've pushed it back another month, because you still have to have a plan. Again, I'm very optimistic that we're going to play golf on the PGA Tour this year. Now, whether that's with or without fans, and whether that's at Augusta National and some of these other places at the Ryder Cup, I'm not quite sure about that. But I guarantee they're going to find a way to play golf before the end of the year.
If we do this optimistic thing, can you imagine how cool all of this is going to be? We're going to have 2 Masters championships within 5 months. Starting in July, we're going to have all these majors and the Ryder Cup and then another Augusta. Oh, my goodness. This will be the most amazing half year we've ever seen.
It's a good problem to have. I kind of started looking at my schedule and figuring out, okay, if this goes off as we hope it does and as it's planned right now, I don't think I'm going to be home until the time they start in June, until pretty much Christmas time.
All right, let's play Tiger Tracker. He appears in Fort Worth at the first event, doesn't he?
I would think so. Now, that's a very curious question. And I kind of addressed that on golfchannel.com this week. And not one of his normal stops, but, again, this isn't normal circumstances. So it's funny. I was looking at the field for Colonial today, and it's amazing how many more guys. It happens slowly, but you're starting to see more and more guys commit that probably would not have played that event normally. And you can probably say the same thing across the board for the next week in Hilton Head, and then the week after that, and keep going on through Memphis, your event. And so I can imagine there's a scenario where players, even a Tiger Woods type player, is going to play the vast majority of events, that whatever events are left, I don't think they have much of a choice.
You think any of these guys are really hurting with the purses they've had? I would have to think that this is the one, and they're only backed up 6 months at this point. This is one of those sports where if you're on the PGA Tour, not the Korn Ferry Tour, but the PGA Tour, you probably can practice and not have that financial burden on your shoulders.
I would think so. Again, I'll give the tour credit on this one. They were really quick to come up with some financial ways to help players out, not just PGA Tour players, but Korn Ferry players, PGA Tour Champions players. A lot of creative ways to give them income during this time when there isn't any income to be had. I would think for a PGA Tour player, they're okay right now. I mean, it's not that far. They're not that far removed from the last tournament we played. Now, I think eventually we get to the point where it's starting to hurt everyone. I mean, let's be honest. If you look at the society in general, it's going to happen. But right now, I think they're fine.
Rex, we appreciate your time today. I know we'll visit again before Memphis after we get the restart. We're going to stay optimistic, get started at Charles Schwab, play through June, play through July, and in late July, and I'm promising you this in Memphis on July 30th. When you come to Memphis, it's going to be 75 and cool, not a cloud in the sky in late July, early August in Memphis. Is that a deal?
Oh, man, I don't care. I'm just going to be there, and I want rendezvous, and I want to be able to cover golf at TPC South. That's all I want.
You'll get both, Rex, and we'll visit with you again soon. Thank you so much for your time. Stay well. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Rex Hoggard from Golf Channel with us. I didn't overpromise on the weather, did I, Dave?
No. It'll be gorgeous. Come on. You kidding me?
75 on August 1st.
I just say this. It'll feel like 75 if we ever get out of our offices or homes or studios. I hope, my goal is that we're out there. How's that?
I hope we're out there.
When was the last time, seriously, when was the last time there was a golf tournament in Memphis that we did not go live from?
I can't remember a time that I've been doing this and listening to you through the years. I don't remember a time. I mean, so many years, you and George and Peggy Sternberger and a cast of thousands at the tournament. Gosh, Dave, I would go back to late 70s that somebody wasn't live from the golf tournament.
I would have to think that's it. Certainly,
that I can attest
not
to.
since they moved from Colonial. That there has.
Oh, not even close. Even at Colonial, y'all.
Yeah,
86, 87.
Oh, yeah.
I can remember listening to y'all with Peggy and crew from out there. No, I can attest to it. It would be at least late 70s. If somebody knows differently, please let us know. But
it'll
we've been
be
out
a
there.
real. It's going to be a dilemma on crowds here.
Sure.
I think by then, obviously, we'll be in phase 1 or phase 2, hopefully phase 3 of the mayor's plans on reopening the city. But you've got a major international influx of people coming, and I was never more touched by that than I was last year when I saw for the first time walking into that media center and all the different languages being spoken and the whole setup, and realized
the clocks. All the clocks from around the world.
Yes, how the world really had come here. We all knew that the old FedEx St. Jude Classics, or even the Danny Thomas Memphis Classics, brought people from all over the country in, and sometimes the world, but nothing like this. I mean, when it says World Golf Championships, WGC, it says that for a reason. And so that means international travel has to be back huge. I'll go back. It's interesting how we have two congressmen. One's a Democrat, one's a Republican. And I'll promote right now that we had Steve Cohen on last week. We have David Kustoff on tomorrow at 3:30 to talk pandemic and what the federal government is doing and all the PPPs and everything else that goes with that. And David is a really interesting guy. So Cohen said to us the other day he went to Washington and there were 7 people on his plane. David Kustoff's talking to me today about how he's going to Washington. There were 11 people on his Southwest Airlines plane.
And still didn't pay for it.
And well, the bottom line is the air industry is probably going to be different, and we'll talk with him about that tomorrow. But you've got to have international travel restrictions all lifted. for the WGC and all the people that come in, the press, the players, and fans. And we had fans from all over the world that came in last year. And I hope, I pray that that'll be the case, but there's certainly no guarantees of that for sure. Let me let everybody know this portion of the program is brought to you by Ken Garland Custom Home Builders. Ken knows when you commit to him, you're really committing, because you're building that dream home, or you're renovating the home that you love now, but you want it to be modern. I call it renovation with innovation. He'll get all the new amenities. You'll get the huge bathrooms and the steam room in your bathroom and the California closets and the island in your kitchen and whatever new things, the speakers in the walls, all of those things you get. Or maybe you're looking for a piece of land and there's a development there that you want safety gated community. We got a Leylon. That's a new gated community by Boyle, and it's safe as could be. It's on Messick Road, east of Kirby, all the way to McVeigh. 4-bedroom homes, palaces, starting at $875,000. If you've got land already, but you don't know what to do with it, Ken will know. I promise you. Go to KenGarland.com. You'll see what I'm talking about. And then head over to the phone. Call him at 751-1632. 751-1632. Get with the guy who will really build your dreams. That's Ken Garland, Custom Home Builders. The long-time AAU coach is now the coach at Hamilton. Who's that? You'll find out next.
Search Sports 56 on Facebook and give us a like. And follow us on Twitter at Sports 56 WHBQ.
I'm here with Robert Cox, kitchen manager of the Rendezvous Restaurant. Tell us about those great ribs at the Rendezvous.
Rendezvous stands alone in a unique barbecue style, only found in Memphis, Tennessee. We don't smoke our ribs, we char-broil them. The guys cooking our ribs have been doing it for 30 years. Mr. Charlie Virgos taught the guys the technique himself, and still to this day, they teach newcomers that come in the door. After our ribs come out the pit, we pre-cut every order, so you easily can tear them apart. We based our ribs on a plate and sprinkle our seasoning all over them.
So, Robert, are ribs what everyone comes to the Rendezvous for?
The beef brisket is now our second best seller behind the ribs. We also have lamb riblets, half chicken, pork shoulder, chopped chicken, cheese and sausage plate. Nachos are fantastic. We also carry a Greek salad. The list goes on.
Robert, where can we find out more about all of these great options?
Our restaurant menu is online at hogsfly.com, and recently we just added our catering menu online.
Mr. Charlie Virgos' Rendezvous Restaurant, a family-owned restaurant in downtown Memphis, in the alley since 1948.
Let's Stop HIV Together is a national campaign to help end HIV stigma. When we support those living with HIV, we make it easier for them to take the steps needed to stay healthy. Learn how to stop HIV stigma in your family and community. Visit www.cdc.gov/together.
Hi, folks. Bob Burkheimer for Sunrise Buick GMC Truck. A lot has happened overnight, and just wanted to let you know we're open at Sunrise for all your automotive needs. Service, body shop, parts, and sales. Go online to sunrisememphis.com to schedule an appointment. Should you need a vehicle, we're offering 0% up to 84 months with deferred payments up to 120 days. You can shop online. We'll bring the car or truck to you. At Sunrise, we know you want to feel safe, so bring your car or truck to any Sunrise location, and we'll disinfect it at no charge. Sunrise, stress-free and safe. Covington Pike, Wolf Chase, and Collierville.
Hi, everybody, The Herd. Over 50 years ago, two men with a passion for motorsport and engineering began building race engines in an old abandoned mill. They saw an opportunity on every wide open road and an invitation in every curve. It was a chance to push the envelope, break all the rules. It was a chance to prove that a 2-ton family sedan could have the performance to compete in a 24-hour track race. But shocking the competition and building a reputation, it wasn't enough. Their vision was to expand upon the excellence they had created. This engineering company continued to validate their belief by putting race car engines in luxury sedans and proceeded to stun the elite in world motor racing by winning and winning and winning. We may never truly understand what drives Mercedes-AMG to break barriers, along with every record in the book, but here's to allowing us to enjoy the results. Learn more at mbusa.com/AMG. Mercedes-AMG, driving performance.
Now, more of Sports Time on Sports 56 with Wolo and Stats. This hour of Sports Time is brought to you by Homer Skelton Hyundai. Here once again are Dave Woloshin and Brad Norsworthy.
Closing out hour number 2, hour 3 starts with Bo Marchant from collegetopro.com. We will wrap up and talk a lot about the draft last week. Thought it was a little alarming. The Carolina Panthers in this offensive age, they go 7 picks all on the defensive side. You've got coaching news, Dave.
Coaching news?
You said?
Oh, yeah, the coaching news. Oh, yes. Hamilton High School has, you know the name Cowboy Eric Robinson?
Oh, yeah.
Cowboy Robinson. He played for Hamilton High School way back when. I didn't know this. He played, I can't remember, I want to say it was like East Tennessee, I think he played at, and then was transferring to play for Larry Finch at the at then Memphis State. And he was playing in a pickup game right before he got to Memphis and tore an ACL and never got to play for Larry Finch and then Memphis State. So he's been an AAU coach for as long as I can remember. Seriously, he's been around it a long time. But I didn't know he was a coach at Lausanne. He's been a coach at other schools, middle schools, for a long period of time. And he decided to go home. So Cowboy Robinson, Cowboy is the new boys coach at Hamilton High School. There is a way you can go home again.
Yeah, I wonder what years he would have been at East Tennessee State and who the coach would have been.
Go back to Larry's years. So Larry took over the late 80s, early 90s. Had to be in there.
In that stretch, because I know they had it was a very popular Abe Lemons assistant that went there, and he was the coach here. I saw him play one time at Barnhill, and it was a very celebrated incident with Eddie Sutton and player conduct that night with a acclaimed player. I just don't know if he was on that team or not. Go back to Rex Hoggard and who this has benefited. This has to be helping Tiger. Just sitting back while the rest of the golf world has to do nothing, and he can get very recuperated. Now it'll be a tight window for him to break back out in.
I've been watching people guess, and there are some people guess he'll be at the WGC because he loves those events. There are some that are saying the schedule's so compacted he's going to save all of it for majors. There's going to be where Jack's tournament is going to be on there. He owes one to Jack. Would he give Memphis because otherwise there's too many in a row? There's a lot of question marks about that. We know this for sure. He's going to play in the Ryder Cup and he's going to play in the 3 majors for sure. So you can build everything around those, and who knows? But I agree. I think the rest had to help him. Although it was interesting because he told Jim Nantz on that CBS replay of his victory a year before that he was ready to go at this year's Masters.
He did say that, and you just wonder what his schedule will be. At least now we don't have that goofy one-day event in Ireland that he was wanting to go to on the morning after the previous scheduled date. So at least not battling with that, but are battling with the compacted schedule. And I don't think he's going to play. I don't think he should play every week. But you're right, Dave. He's going to build most of it around those majors and around the Ryder Cup, although, as we talked about last week, hadn't been on a winning Ryder Cup team since 1999 for Tiger Woods. That's hard to believe. 1999, last winning Ryder Cup team he was on. The United States hadn't won very much in there, but he hadn't been a part of those. We start hour number 3. Next up will be Bo Marchant.
Farmers Insurance knows that when you're in the car and that song comes on, yes, that's the one, you have no choice but to pull out your imaginary drumsticks and smash those cymbals and stomp on that kick pedal, which unfortunately is the accelerator pedal. And we covered it. Talk to a farmer's agent who knows a thing or two because they've seen a thing or two.
Call Chad Gatlin at 901-235-1176 or get a fast quote at memphisfarmers.com.
We are farmers. Bum, 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 bum.
Underwritten by Farmers Truck Fire Insurance Exchanges and Affiliates. Products not available in every state.
Hey everybody, this is Coach Penny Hardaway. There's a comfort in being home, and to me, comfort food and family makes Memphis the place to be, along with having the best basketball fans in America. I like pulling into Corky's and getting one of their family party packs. How can you go wrong with pork, beans, slaw, sauce, and buns for only $5.99 a person. It is so easy. I can call ahead, order online, or just pop in. Tailgating can't get any easier. Tell them Penny sent you.
Encore flavor, Corky's barbecue.
Ugh, those nachos were rough on my stomach.
When you have nausea, heartburn, indigestion, upset stomach, diarrhea, try Pepto-Bismol liquid caps for fast relief and ultra coating. Nausea, heartburn, indigestion, Pepto-Bismol liquid caps. Use as directed.
Sports 56 would like to recognize local businesses that are out there still feeding and providing for the community via curbside pickup. Let's support local business with your business. These local businesses include Central Barbecue, Sunrise, Sweetgrass, Humdingers, Germantown Commissary, Jason's Deli, Corky's, East Coast Wings, Moe's, and Soulfish Cafe. Sports 56 appreciates the support of local businesses always, but especially during this time. Thank you.
We are Sports 56, WHBQ Memphis, WIVG-FM Tunica Memphis, and WPG-FLP Memphis, Flynn Broadcasting Stations. Welcome back to Sportstime on Sports 56 with Wolo and Stats. This hour of Sportstime is brought to you by DeSoto Auto Sales. Here once again are Dave Woloshin and Brett Norsworthy.
The much ballyhooed NFL draft, it came and went, and it came off well. No glitches, no embarrassments, nothing to really give them but high marks and high praise. The ratings were spectacular. We knew that would happen because we were all so ready for anything. We'll talk with it. We'll talk with Bo Marchant about it after I tell you about the title sponsor of this hour, and that's DeSoto Auto Sales at 5704 Goodman Road, 662-890-7184. Come on down to DeSoto County for that town and country experience at DeSoto Auto Sales. Check out all the referrals from all the very pleased customers at DeSotoAutoSales.com. All the cars at DeSoto Auto Sales test-driven, checked out head to toe, bumper to bumper, with an unlimited inventory. Every make, every model. If it's not on the lot, they'll go out and find it for you. DeSoto Auto Sales, no shortcuts taken. They treat you like family, kind, courteous employees, laid-back atmosphere, no high-pressure sales. They care very much about your time and want you to have the ultimate car experience because they know we're living in a world today that time really matters. You walk in, deal with your sales rep, find the car you want, or test drive a couple of different cars, credit approved, paperwork completed, you're gone in less than an hour, in time to do it over your busy lunch hour or immediately after work. At DeSoto Auto Sales at 5704 Goodman Road. Come on down to DeSoto County for that town and country experience at DeSoto Auto Sales. Bo Marchant from collegetopro.com joins us at this time every Tuesday to talk the very busy world of the NFL. And even for the most ardent Roger Goodell critics, the NFL and Roger Goodell, they deserve some credit because they pulled off a technological marvel last week with very few hitches, I think. Bo, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, guys. Yeah, you're right. It was so fluent and there was no hiccups that I think we took for granted how much went into seeing all these different homes and all these communications kind of come into one. I mean, a lot of times when you just see a typical news setup, a live location shot, you get those technical glitches. But it went off on a hook without any things. And when you think of Roger Goodell, I thought he came across good. I think he kind of maybe gained some fans rather than people kind of booing him. He might have some subtle voices next year when hopefully things are back to normal and they have the draft in Cleveland. But fantastic job. We knew the ratings would be where they'd be because there's nothing else going on for us to view, especially in terms of sports. But once again, the NFL gets the capture while everybody seems to be losing what little control they had of TV ratings, and the NFL comes through once again.
I thought there had to be some technical glitches though, because I didn't see it go 1, 2, 3 quarterbacks.
Yeah, they came off the board. We talked last week. Tua must have been healthy enough. Went 5 to Miami, and then followed right behind him by Justin Herbert. At the end of the day, I still was surprised that Jeff Oak went third to the Lions. I was just surprised with the DBs. Talking, I think of the last 20 years, the highest guy, Denzel Ward, and then prior to that was Charles Woodson going at 4. So, he leapfrogged those guys by one slot, and Okuda, lands at number 3. But besides Jordan Love going to the Packers, I thought it was, to me, a relatively quiet first round, not a lot of surprises.
Yeah.
We could kind of nitpick at the Damon Arnett pick from the Raiders, but nonetheless, I don't think that had the craziness to think of what Green Bay did in terms of moving up 4 slots to take Love. But, in my opinion, a quiet first round. Kind of thought everyone, absent of Love, where these guys were projected to go, most of them kind of went to where they were supposed to go.
Why do you think Miami did not move up? They ended up getting their guy anyway, so maybe they felt pretty confident. Because you thought for sure that Washington would trade that spot because and I guess they felt they wouldn't get Chase Young. But is that the reason?
Yeah, Washington would have. Washington would have left the 2 spot, the Lions would have took Chase Young. So Washington would have been the predicament where we're not getting Chase Young. Where do we go next? And they must have felt comfortable enough keeping that pick. And maybe they didn't get the ransom, that they wanted from, the bounty of picks from another team jockeying to move up. But at the end of the day, kudos to both Miami and, you could also say the Los Angeles Chargers for holding pat. I'm sure there was probably some nervous moments when, that 4th pick came up for the New York Giants, and they're kind of wondering, is somebody going to leapfrog us to get to the 4th spot and possibly take one of these quarterbacks off the board? But that didn't unfold, and lo and behold, Miami was tanking for Tua. They were going to get the number 1 pick. They're giving up all their assets to gain draft stock, and lo and behold, they get to walk away with the guy they probably wanted from day one in Tua, and they got him with the 5th pick overall. So, I thought Miami did a good job throughout the draft as well. But at the end of the day, Tua's a Dolphin, and hopefully, he stays healthy and he can give them some life at that quarterback position.
And they're already talking about the medical redshirt year for him next year, just mothballing, put him in bubble wrap, and have him ready for 2021. I don't think that will sell a lot of season tickets, the idea of that, but still might sell a lot of jerseys. It won't be number 13 because Dan Marino has that one retired. And now the Dolphins are saying it was Tua all the way. They were never going to deal. That's easy to say after the draft. It's a little bit after you've had the long, protracted coaching search, especially on the college level. We always go out and say, this is the only guy we ever wanted.
Yeah, I wouldn't believe any of that. You never know. Whatever guy that because you know why? You don't know who you're going to get. The only team that they knew they were going to get were the Cincinnati Bengals knew that they were going to get the guy they wanted. Everybody absent of that, you did not know who or where or why or where they were going to go in this 2020 draft. For Miami though, to get to even if they want to rest them, that's what you want to do. But that when this season hopefully comes and we start watching live football, we don't know how it's going to shake out. Ryan Fitzpatrick may not have the success he had last year. Things don't go your way. Maybe he gets hurt. You can't give the football to Josh Rosen. Maybe Tua's thrown into the fire. Those are some of the things that just kind of go with being in the business. It's fun to think about how you want it to be, but how it usually goes is quite different from what teams want. So at the end of the day, Miami might want to keep Tua, like you said, in that bubble wrap, but who knows? If they're struggling, Fitzpatrick isn't having success, you have this 5th round pick with a lot of excitement, it'd be hard to keep him on the bench.
Is Josh Rosen a definite wash?
I believe so. Yeah, I was never high on Rosen. I don't think he's done anything but 2 different things. Yeah. He's you think when you're, when a team moves up to take you, what the Arizona Cardinals did, and then 1 year later you're sent off to another team. I just think it speaks volumes in terms of, the bus factor that kind of surrounds Josh Rosen. And, you beat out you beat out Ryan Fitzpatrick, who I do think an underrated journeyman. He's had success, but, he'll always have that journeyman, title next to his name. But at the end of the day, they traded for Josh Rosen. They were hoping to find maybe some, ability to kind of coach him up and be a guy that they could possibly build around, but they knew immediately that wasn't the case, and Fitzpatrick was the guy under center for Miami, and now they move on to Tua. So, it's definitely, not what Josh Rosen, I'm sure, wanted after a few years in the National Football League, but I think it's safe to say that, his ship has passed, and, besides maybe being a backup and eventually washing out of the league, I don't think there's much hope.
I never bought the Josh Rosen hype, and I said it before that draft. You go through his win list the teams that he quarterbacked UCLA to wins over in college, wasn't a lot of them. And probably the biggest one was that opening weekend game. I think it was on a Sunday night at the Rose Bowl, and Texas A&M blew the big lead, and that was kind of the beginning of the end for Kevin Sumlin at Texas A&M. That was one of the few you could really circle, go, yeah, that was a big win. And I bring that up, of course, in the team concept, but because that's what this is. He's not playing tennis. He's not playing golf. He's not riding a bicycle. He's leading a team, and he never led a team to a big win.
Yeah, you bring about that game. I remember that game, and you talk about the big comeback. That was Rosen. For the people I talked to, that was, how he would be every day. Like a person you have to kind of visit in the office and work within the team rooms. And from what I heard, and I'm sure you could find it. Other people come on the show and say, we heard the exact opposite. But from the people I spoke to going through the draft process, it was just going to be something that, it's just hard to kind of rally around him. And there is a little bit of a me factor in Josh Rosen. And I don't know if that translated in Arizona or Miami, but, besides just, below average play, abysmal play, I don't know if he was, the person, you kind of want to back up and say, we'll work around this kid. But at the end of the day, Arizona got it right with Kyler Murray, I think. He showed some promise last year. So Miami's going to move on with them. And, again, it's a vicious cycle. And next year there'll be new quarterbacks coming in to take jobs. And, we probably won't even mention Josh Rosen after that.
Well, while we're talking QBs, were you surprised about the move by the Packers to go up to get Jordan Love and not take care of business now for Aaron Rodgers? They did not really build for right now with Love. They're basically saying we want Love around for a couple of years to be the successor, but they're not helping their team right now, and it seems to me they're on the downswing.
Yeah, I was shocked. I think everyone was shocked. And they like to compare, Aaron Rodgers slipped, and the Packers grabbed him when they still had Brett Favre. The big difference is when Aaron Rodgers slipped from he was vying for the top spot of the draft. He could have been the number one pick, and then Alex Smith would have been the guy that slid. Aaron Rodgers was considered a top pick, top 3 pick. So when he slid down the draft, that was the historical part of watching Aaron Rodgers sit and suffer at the draft in 2005. Jordan Love could have totally missed out on the first round if it wasn't for the Packers. He was that wild card. We've discussed many times. He could go from 10 to 25. He could have went in the second round. So for Green Bay to leapfrog up 4 spots and to take a guy that is not an immediate help when your defensive front interior is so bad that teams just can run through it like toilet paper, and then you don't address wide receiver, you draft a running back with A.J. Dillon when probably only 2 things on your team when you look at it say, we have a decent couple good running backs, we have a good quarterback, and what do you draft with a couple of your high picks? A running back and a quarterback. So at the end of the day, I think Green Bay dropped the ball in this draft. And even if, 3 years from now, if Jordan Love's the guy, you don't know. And just to say, he's going to be the next Aaron Rodgers or Brett Favre, that's not the way you kind of go about business. So again, I don't like the move. I don't see how it's going to pay a dividend now. I can only assume. I think Green Bay, Aaron Rodgers' contract, they have an out after the 2021 season where it's not going to be, I think, $17 million, the dead cap space. They're not going to owe him any real cash. So, I would possibly say, hey, that 2022 season when it begins, I think that's the date or the season you got to circle saying, if he is not a Packer in terms of Aaron Rodgers, this is going to be when the Packers make the move.
Dead cap money right now is around 50, isn't it?
Yeah. It depends on the guys. For
Aaron Rodgers.
Todd Gurley was in the 20s. Antonio Brown was 20. I think Tom Brady was 13.5 for Green Bay. But that's their out for the contract. You got the dead cap money, but they're not going to owe him anything. So that's their out. But at the end of the day, why Green Bay elected to do this, and we know Aaron Rodgers is not the most team, he's not your buddy guy. We know there's rumblings out of Green Bay in terms of what it's like to work for him or be around him. So, I don't know if it'll make it any easier. But I'm sure it lit a fire under him. I'm sure he's going to want to come out and show that he's the best of the best, and gets the maximum play out of them. But at the end of the day, when you're a team in the NFC Championship game, and the one thing I really think about with Green Bay is Aaron Rodgers even addressed it last year. He said, well, we're winning ugly, but we're winning. But at the end of the day, when you're playing other good teams, that's when your ugliness kind of comes to fruition. And we see that you are an ugly team. And, they weren't in the same class as the San Francisco 49ers, and they played in that championship game.
Didn't
they
even
weren't.
compete.
No, they weren't. And they had no offense. They had no firepower. They were just a team that was there. By chance, 13-3, but were they really a team that you feared? I'd say, I feared the Saints more. The Vikings looked more dangerous. Even that hot Eagles team coming in. If Wentz doesn't get hurt, do they carry on some success? So at the end of the day, I don't think the Packers helped themselves. I don't like the move. And, the only way we're ever going to find out if this was a success, and again, you're capitalizing on the future when you're kind of, laying waste to the, the here and now. So I don't like the move, and it's going to take a while for me to believe that this was the right move for Green Bay.
What team do you think did the best? A lot of people say the Cowboys. They love the Lamb pick. I thought the Tampa Bay Buccaneers did a great job of moving up to get that incredible offensive lineman who can jump out of the pool, a kid from Iowa. Give me the team or two that you thought really hit a grand slam in this draft.
Well, talking to Drew right before we went live, I thought his Ravens did a fantastic job. I mean, you get Patrick Queen and you Dobbins, and then I looked at the late guys like Brad Bredesen, the Michigan guard. I mean, you're not going to find a more ferocious or funner offensive lineman to watch than Brad Bredesen. And what do the Ravens love to do? They run the football, and to get him in the fourth round, I just thought, you talk about a godsend for the Baltimore Ravens. And they got some good success, when James Prochet, the SMU receiver, he's kind of under the radar. And I love the move from the Cowboys all the way down the draft. I did some Texas shows over the weekend, and, we talked about the CeeDee Lamb pick. And I like it. The Chiefs have showed that, offense is the way that you can win now. And, when you think about all the offensive weapons they're going to have now with the addition of Lamb, and then sticking to a team that didn't have a lot of needs, but I love what the Saints did. Cesar Ruiz is going to be a guy that, should be able to plug and play and, have a 10-year career. And Zach Bond, he had the failed drug test, a diluted sample with the combine, but, he was a first-round grade. And, they got him late, and then Adam Trautman, a tight end. That's a piece they've been trying to kind of fill ever since they traded Jimmy Graham to Seattle. And like I said, I think Cesar Ruiz, Zach Bond, and Adam Trautman are three dynamic picks that can pay immediate dividends. I mean, that linebacking core, I was surprised when the Saints didn't go linebacker in round one. They elected to go with the center from Michigan. But to be able to kind of go back on the other side and get Zach Bond, I just thought it was a little bit of trickery, a little bit of luck for Mickey Loomis and Sean Payton, but nonetheless they were able to pull it off. But those three teams, the Ravens, the Cowboys, and the Saints, I thought they did really, really, really well.
It's a very offensive age in football at every level. You go to a high school game, college, for sure the NFL. You mentioned the Chiefs have kind of shown the way to just flood the zone and outscore everybody. And then Matt Rule in his first draft with the Carolina Panthers, 7 picks, 7 defensive players. Did Matt Rule think he was back at Baylor and needed defense in the Big 12?
Yeah, I love it when you looked at the team, but they did a lot of their offensive stuff during the offseason. They brought in Robbie Anderson from the Jets via free agency. They brought in Teddy Bridgewater. They were doing all their maneuvers, before the draft, so they could focus on, helping that defense out. So I like what they did, and again, you do your business. You allowed free agency to improve the offense. You allowed the NFL draft to improve the defense, and using all facets. And we all know, Ted Thompson, former GM for the Green Bay Packers, I mean, there was no use of free agency. It was just the draft, and that was basically it. So every opportunity you have to improve, you have to address and use it as a positivity. So, Matt Rule and the people in Carolina have definitely adapted quickly to the way you need to do things in today's NFL is you have to use all means necessary to improve the team. You just can't shun free agency because you just want to depend on the draft.
Who's on the clock for the Trevor Lawrence at Clemson? Who will be the number 1 pick next year and take Trevor Lawrence?
Oh man, It goes back to teams that need a quarterback. I don't think they're going to be the worst team in the National Football League, but I think of a team like the Bears where you need a quarterback. So yeah, they're not the worst team, but they're the only team that can just jump off the paper to me. Where because this team is capable. I mean, the defense is there. But Foles and Mitchell Trubisky, what are we going to get out of them in 2020? So you got to have that quarterback. Granted, they're going to have to give up a king's ransom to move up that high. But at the top of my head, bad teams that need a quarterback, I think a bad team, they're 6-10 is not going to get you the first pick of the 2021 draft. But nonetheless, I think it's going to put them in striking distance, and maybe they have to make a move.
Bo, we will talk about next year's draft quite a bit between now and then, and a lot more included on the NFL. Thank you for your time today. And now the NFL, they have to get the schedule out, and then we wait to see when we start the season. Thank you, Bo.
Yep. Have a great week, Jess.
You got it. Bo Marchant with us every Tuesday from collegetopro.com talking the NFL. No, you look at the team. The Bears clearly won't be the worst team next year because they have so much on defense. Same with Washington. It's hard to go out and find, and if it's Cincinnati with a rookie quarterback struggling, they're not going to take Trevor Lawrence with the first pick. It's hard to find somebody that would have that first pick for next year, unless you had a situation like this, and who could ever predict this and get right with it? What if Matt Ryan got hurt early in the year? Not career ending, but just hurt early in the year, and they limp literally and figuratively, Dave, to 4-12 next year. And they're sitting there at number one with a veteran quarterback that just got hurt. And from that area, Trevor Lawrence would be perfect for them, but I think they're probably too good to play above that, even if Ryan got hurt.
I think they are too, and that doesn't mean somebody can't trade up. We've seen the Bears do that before. I think the Bears, if Trubisky does not do the job, Foles will come in and do the job, and the Bears, I think, can win their division. I don't know if they can beat San Francisco. But
Detroit may be grooming for someone in the future.
There's a team I could see that if they got off to a bad start, they could try to tank to get Trevor Lawrence.
Sure could.
That's the one team, at least from the NFC, that I could see that would try to do that. But I don't. I think the Bears are really going to have a decent year. I thought they were going to have a great year last year, and it just did not work out. And I think we can point the finger at Mitch Trubisky, to a large extent. I'm just not sure how good their coaching is either. And this is the year we'll find out. Because if it isn't Trubisky, we'll see how quickly the move is made to go and try Foles. And if they both are lousy, then you got to look at the offense, and you got to say, well, wait a second, this is the guy who came in because he's such a great offensive coach. And then I think the pressure's on him too. I truly do.
And then there's places with younger quarterbacks like Buffalo and like the Jets. Just how long will they go with those guys that they seem to be committed to now? Because, again, relatively speaking, it's more money than most of us can imagine. But the old having everything locked into that prize first-round quarterback is not like it used to be. It doesn't wreck your franchise. You can pull the eject button pretty quick now.
I think Buffalo's a better team than you're giving them credit for. And I would not be shocked if they knock the New England Patriots off the top notch. We'll see. We'll see. I'll let you know this portion of the show is brought to you by Conway. Conway Services, heating, cooling, plumbing, and, of course, the famous 16-point Energy Saver Super Tune-Up. And I keep forgetting to tell you that with this deal for $69, if you call in this week, this will probably be the last week, you get the early bird for $57. They're throwing in a free leak check, too. And this is where they come in and they will tune you up inside, 16 points, replace the filters, then go outside and take that outside unit to the car wash. They clean it thoroughly. They put a Teflon coating over the blades. You are all set for the hot summer sun. You'll be in tune, which means you save money on your MLGW bill, all while being cool inside. Get that air conditioner ready. Call Conway today, 384-3511. That's Conway Services. Heating, cooling, plumbing, electric, and, of course, home of the famous 16-point Energy Saver Super Tune-Up.
one thing before the break, Dave. Have you seen the field for the tournament that the Tigers, if we start college basketball on time, with all the ifs around it, have you seen the complete field for that tournament that the Tigers will be playing in Thanksgiving? Yeah.
Yeah, I did see it. I can't quite remember, but I do recall that it was star-studded.
Perfect words. Creighton really got a tough break, a raw deal out of not having NCAA tournament. I don't think they would have won it. I don't think they would have gone to the Final Four. Creighton with the right matchups, and we know how important that they are come tournament time, Creighton could have pushed for an Elite Eight. Creighton's in that tournament. Duke speaks for itself. Ohio State, Texas A&M, the job Buzz Williams did last year to squeeze out those wins, and now he's got some reinforcements. Utah, that big year for them. If they don't have a big year, they could be changing coaches. Our old buddy Bob Huggins in West Virginia will be in that tournament, and Wichita State will be there, and I'll bet they'll have Wichita State and Memphis bracketed where they probably won't run into each other. Probably so. Wouldn't play each other till the championship game. And that's not going to happen in that star-studded field. I hope we have it. You know, I hate to say this, but... You could see Antoine Jones with Creighton. I know. A lot. I'm not sure Antoine Jones will play a whole lot. That thing is a deep team, and he had a really good recruiting class this year, too. Antoine Jones may have gone to a place that is a little over his head. We'll see. Everywhere just keeps recruiting over him. But here's the thing I worry about these tournaments. If we've got a delay in college football, the basketball tournaments are going to take a back seat to the college play, to the football. That was the F word. If we have returned to normality and we have that tournament Thanksgiving weekend, man, that feels like a million years from now, doesn't it? It does. Thanksgiving week. Does. It does. When we come back, we'll have a replay of Joe Birch from Action News 5. He was with us at 3:30. Certainly enjoyed that. You can go to the website if you didn't hear it in its entirety at sports56whbq.com, or you can stay tuned because Joe Birch, he's up next. You're listening to Sports Time on Sports 56 with Wolo and Stats on AM 60, 87.7, and 96.1 FM.
Spend your lunch with Greg Gaston and Eli Savoy on Sports 56 Middays, delivered by FedEx. Weekdays from 10 to 1 on Sports 56, 96.1, and 87.7.
Here at Rocket Mortgage and the Rock family of companies, every one of our team members knows a hero.
My Uncle Paul, who works long hours at the grocery store to make sure that people can put food on the table.
We really want to thank my wife's cousin Marie, who works so hard as a nurse saving others.
Thank you for being a hero in our community, Des Marie.
To those who leave their homes to keep us safe in ours, we thank you. From the front lines to behind the scenes, we see you. You're essential every day, and today, you're heroes.
You're giving families everywhere a little more hope for a healthier tomorrow.
We're sending all our love, gratitude, and hope your way.
Here's to all of you. We couldn't be more grateful.
Thank you so much for everything that you're doing. And yeah, you guys are awesome.
Say we miss you, Mama.
I just want to say thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
If you'd like to thank America's frontline and essential workers with us, visit everyoneknowsahero.com. Quicken Loans, LLC, NMLS number 3030, licensed in 50 states. Each legal entity that identifies themselves as part of the Rock family of companies are separate legal entities with their own governance and management structures.
Sports 56 would like to recognize local businesses that are out there providing for the community. Let's support local business with your business. Gossett Motor Cars, Excellent Window Tint, My Favorite Place Mexican Restaurant, Crab Kings, Mid-South Power Distributors, All-Star Chevrolet, Wolf Chase Honda Nissan, Mid-South Lemon Brace, Principal Toyota, Rise Biscuits and Donuts, Homer Skelton Dodge Chrysler Jeep, Counts Marine, Wright Realty. Sports 56 appreciates the support of local businesses always, but especially during this time. Thank you.
This is Eli Savoy from Sports 56 Middays. During this coronavirus pandemic, many of us are spending all day at home, and we remind you that you can stay in touch and connected through Sports 56. We're here live and local every day, keeping you informed and entertained as we all try our best to get through this healthy and safe. So turn us on your radio, computer, phone, or smart speaker and keep practicing social distancing. Stay home, stay informed, and stay entertained with Sports 56 and sports56whbq.com.
There's a new commissary in town in Collierville. Germantown Commissary is doubling. Yeah, they're still going to have the old Germantown commissary by the tracks, but now there's a huge new Germantown commissary in Collierville at Poplar and Houston Levee Road. It's huge, too. There's a drive-through. There's plenty of parking, no telephone pole to get in your way, a cool patio. It's right by the track, so the tradition continues. And this is a tradition that's been around forever. That commissary is famous for hickory-smoked, slow-cooked Memphis-style barbecue. They've got a private party room at the new one in Collierville. Self-catering still continues. Party packs for $5.95. Basically, the great ribs, the great pulled shoulder, the great deviled eggs. Everything is there in Collierville and Germantown now. So there is now a Germantown and Collierville style of barbecue. It's called Germantown Commissary.
Welcome back to Sports Time on Sports 56 with Wolo and Stats. This hour of Sports Time is brought to you by DeSoto Auto Sales. Here once again are Dave Woloshin and Brett Norsworthy.
Some news today from baseball. We alluded to it earlier. CBS reporting around a 4th of July proposed starting date, 3 different places using the Phoenix Scottsdale model, the state of Texas, and the Florida spring training sites as a potential for a late June, or at the very latest, that Saturday, the 4th of July. That would have been the weekend of the WGC FESJI had it not been moved. So some aspirational thoughts from baseball. Look, we're all looking for some hope during these times and some light at the end of the tunnel. And we got that when we got to visit earlier today, and we're going to replay that now from Action News 5. Their lead anchor, our Walter Cronkite, Joe Birch.
Joe, can I give you a better intro than that?
You can't ask for that, my friend. And you know where I go every Wednesday when they're open? Jason's Deli. There's a whole group of guys I meet over there at noon on Wednesdays over at Poplar and Highland. We have a big time together every Wednesday over there. So when things get back to normal, I'll see you all over there on Wednesday at noon.
That's the deal.
When are they getting back to normal, Joe?
Well, I got to ask him this. When you're there, how much of that ice cream do you eat, Joe?
You know, I park myself by the, I got a secret about that, I use my drink cup, this is the way a news anchor gets a little extra, I use my drink cup to get a little extra ice cream, and usually my wife's not there, so I get away with it,
Well, Joe, Dave is a known poacher. He's been caught just sneaking into the Jason's Deli and getting ice cream and really not getting any sandwich.
Oh, is that right? Oh, man.
Oh, yeah.
That is made up. That's just made up. So I want to get into a lot of the pandemic changes since we spoke with you when this story really first started to occur. But I do want to let you plug what I think is going to be a very important happening tonight. And I'm sort of confused. I wasn't sure if this was on Action News 5 or is it on Bounce or is it Zoom? You've got a town hall meeting today with 8 different leaders. How are you doing that?
Right. So it's a bit of a technological miracle that we're going to try to pull off tonight at 7 on WMC TV, the big TV station, as well as our website and our Facebook page. So those are the platforms where you can see this 1-hour town hall meeting called The Road to Reopening. And we are going to have 8 guests, and we're thrilled that Mayor Jim Strickland and Mayor Lee Harris will be joining us. We have Beverly Robertson from the Greater Memphis Area Chamber of Commerce. And we also have West Memphis Mayor Marco McClendon, the South Haven Mayor Darren Musselwhite, the Clarksdale, Mississippi Mayor Chuck Espy, as well as some healthcare experts, Dr. John McCullers, who is the expert that we've all gotten to know a little better from the University of Tennessee Health Sciences Center, who is an infectious disease expert. He's also the physician-in-chief and pediatrician-in-chief at Le Bonheur. And Dr. Elisa Householder from the health department. She's the head of the health department. So we're going to have 8 guests, and they're going to be on Zoom, and we've been working for the last 24 hours on making sure that we can get the Zoom images and sound on television, and we think we have figured that out. And so 7 o'clock tonight, we're going to be trying to go for the answers that, everybody wants to know. When are we going to reopen? Well, what I know at this point is that the epidemiologists are going to have the big say. So in the back to business plan that the mayors unveiled yesterday, the discussion is about a 14-day trend of downward case growth, right? So we want to see fewer and fewer cases, or at least a plateau consistent over 14 consecutive days. The reason for 14 days is that is, how long we're contagious with this thing if we are positive. And so, and then, the opportunity to recover from it, hopefully. So there you go. I mean, it's going to be a good hour, I think, a time well spent tonight at 7 on the TV station, on Facebook, and on our website, WMCActionNews5.com. Yeah, live stream.
Joe, so, as you address these leaders tonight, what's the first thing that is on your mind? We know they've already given us phase one. I guess it would be how we establish it. And they've talked a little bit about contact tracing. We've talked about a decrease or stability in the amount of cases. But we've also heard about the economy and how hurting so many people in this community are. What do you think the trade-off is, and how far away do you think we are from opening this thing?
Well, it's not for me to say. It's for them. And I'm sure they never expected this when they ran for this office, but now it's their call. They ran for the job, and this is fallen into their lap as the fates would have it. And so, I know there's tremendous pressure in the business community to get things going again. A couple of examples. I know in the hospitality industry, which is suffering tremendously. You drive down Union Avenue, you don't see anybody standing out in front of the Sun Studio like you always do. And that's a huge driver, the Elvis crowd that comes here all year long from all over the world. Well, they're not there taking a picture outside of Sun and going to Graceland and staying at the hotels and eating in our restaurants. They're sheltering in place in their respective cities. And so there's tremendous pressure in the business community to get things going again. I heard a report this morning from an insider in the hospitality industry that the Peabody, which is our great benchmark for our community, right, at the South's Grand Hotel, usually has 500 employees on staff, is down in the 90 range at the moment. And there's a hotel right across the street that usually has about 90 on staff that's down to 6 at the moment. So, there's tremendous pressure to get these businesses back open again and going. But I think the mayors wisely are allowing science and the health experts to look at the data and to determine the best path forward as we see a downward trend. Some good news just came out of the governor's news conference. The health director in the state of Tennessee said we've had the lowest day-over-day growth ever so far today in Tennessee. So that would have been looking at yesterday, so April 27th. The growth was overall, day over day the lowest ever. But one day does not a trend make, right? So we have to get this. In the mayors of here in Shelby County, they want to see a 14-day trend where they feel like, okay, we're clearly social distancing, we're clearly wearing our masks, we're clearly doing all the things, washing our hands, and so it's safe to try in a phased way to reopen. But,
Joe,
the challenge...
I'm sorry, Joe. You make a great point about the politicians. They didn't ask for this. None of them really signed up for this, but they all tell us at some point during the election, I'll be prepared on day one. Well, I don't know how any of them, every one of them does it forever in every campaign. I don't know how you can do it because you have no idea what's coming at you over the term of your office. And but it's also why I have been reluctant to play the blame game right now. There will be a time and place for that. And ultimately for all the politicians, the time and place for the blame game will be Election Day.
Yeah, that's right. And nobody asked for this. And, certainly in the local government really. I mean, that's never come up as a question before. This is my first pandemic. I hope it's our last. You know, the question about epidemics generally doesn't come up, in politics. But I think it will be an issue going forward from now on. And, because this whole experience has revealed a lot of the fissures that exist in our community in terms of who is getting health care and how it's being delivered and who can afford it. And, there's a whole wide array of issues about nutrition, about, proper health that we have to address in the city. And I think from now on in this country, I think this is going to be this is definitely a road we don't want to go down again ever, right? And so we're all going to be on point to look for leaders who are going to be trying to head off this kind of thing and have a preparation and a plan in place. And even in local government, what is your plan, Mr. Candidate, Ms. Candidate, for, an epidemic should one arise like what happened in 2020?
I think that's the majority of the stories that you'll be doing as we enter the final phases of recovery. It'll be, what have we learned? And for instance, what will they do? And let's pray they never need the commercial appeal auxiliary hospital with the 1,500 beds that they are putting into that space. But do we say, you know what? We're keeping that there with all those ventilators and everything else just in case it comes back in the fall. What are the lessons that we learn from this going forward? Like you mentioned, a much more equitable healthcare opportunity for all socioeconomic backgrounds.
Right, yeah. Well, it does seem a little, quite a juxtaposition, if you will, that we are talking about reopening, and, most of the counties of Tennessee are reopening, but we are building an emergency hospital just to have on the side. On one hand, we're reopening. On the other hand, we're saying we want to be ready just in case there's a spike. And our whole hospital system, Baptist, Methodist, Regional 1, Le Bonheur, the whole standard hospital community in our St. Francis, in our town, is overwhelmed by another spike, that we're going to have this hospital over at the commercial appeal, and then if we need it, God forbid we need it, another one over there on Jackson Avenue at the Gateway Shopping Center. I believe that's a Bell's property. And so it's quite a, it's on one hand we're reopening sort of, and on the other hand we're getting ready for a spike, because I think anybody who knows these kinds of respiratory illnesses knows that hospital is clearly a wise investment right now. Yeah. And so we're going to have Dr. Householder from the health department and John McCullers, our infectious disease expert from UT, talk about all these things tonight, as well as our mayors. They'll be addressing all this tonight at 7 on WMC, as well as on all our digital platforms.
I'm so confident that will be pulled off. Look, if the NFL could do, I don't know how many different cameras they had going with Zoom.
Joe,
I know you can do it with those 8 different leaders. And there's just so many different angles. What if there is a story that has touched you thus far, Joe Birch, from this? And it could be on the medical side, it could be on the economic side. Your numbers on those hotel employees is just mind-boggling. What's the story that has touched you the most?
Well, the thing that broke my heart the most was Dan Spector, the death of Dan Spector, who's the incredible artist who used to be based over on, he had a studio on Broad, and he passed away. And, that starting to know people who have passed away, there are people in my faith community who have been deeply affected by this. And one gentleman I know who's passed on very recently. And so, it's really hit home. That is really glaring when you're looking at bunch of friends and, acquaintances, people who you know from riding your bicycle down Broad Avenue to going to church at your house of worship, and your people, smiling faces that you're used to seeing and saying hey to are no longer with us. That's the thing that's really broken my heart the most. And I'll tell you what, we did a Zoom reunion with my siblings. I'm the oldest of 5 Birch kids. It's Joseph, Patrick, Marianne, Kathleen, and James. A good Irish crowd, right?
Oh, love it.
The Catholics, they only have a certain number of names. They keep recycling the same ones. And so anyway, we had a Zoom reunion for the first time on Sunday, and my brother-in-law is a retired New Jersey state trooper, and he was telling us how every time he logs on, it's so depressing because he knows someone else, a retired state trooper who's, New Jersey is much more affected than our area at this time, and they've really had a scourge there. But New York, New Jersey, and the Northeast has really been hit hard. But I mean, it's so that hits home. That just hits home when our friends and our relatives start naming names, of people who've gone by. In the world globally, there's 3,041,912 cases today. And yesterday, there were 70,000 new cases across the world. The total across the entire globe is 211,167 deaths. So, it's a global pandemic. 4,623 people died yesterday across the whole wide world. And here in Shelby County, really, I think our numbers are manageable at this point. But honestly, we don't know because the testing has been so limited. And I guess this is one of the areas that I'm going to get into tonight, is because the testing has been so limited, it's hard to know really where we are, right? So,
right.
So, one way to, quote, box in this thing is through testing. This is the way we have to do it. So if you're trying to box in coronavirus, testing is the way you find out who's got it, right? And then you isolate those people. That's one side of the box. And then you do trace contacting you contact all the people and trace all the people that the people who have tested positive been contacted in. That's another part of the box. And then you isolate them. And those are the 4 corners of the box: testing, isolation of those positive, contact tracing, and then isolating the contact traced people so that they sit home for a couple of weeks and are not contagious. And because the testing, is sort of so all over the map, it's in one part of the region it's available, and in other parts it's scarce. It's becoming more and more available, but it still isn't as widely done as I think everybody.
Well, we've only had 25,000 tests, so you're right on that. The only positive I get out of that, honestly, Joe, is that there's probably a lot more people that have it that we know, but we do know the accurate number of 46 deaths, which would tell you that it's much lower than anybody had ever thought it would be, and God willing, that continues. Joe, we will watch you tonight. I know there will be a number that will be watching you on the news, and then they'll watch your town hall at 7. And thank you for being on with us, and please stay healthy.
You too. You guys, you do the same, and I'll see you all at Jason's Deli on Wednesdays at noon when everything gets back to normal.
That's a day.
You got it, Joe Birch.
All right,
thank you,
all.
It's always good to talk with Joe.
It is, Dave, and we will be watching tonight, and I'm with Joe Birch. I think everybody's with Joe Birch on this one. Hope we never talk pandemic again.
Me too. You've just put up on our board here a big announcement. The University of Memphis has said in-person class for fall semester. And Dr. Rudd a couple of weeks ago intonated to us on this show that would be the case. He talked about hybrid classes, which we had Drew explain to us yesterday, but that's another positive. So we're getting more and more positives every day. Yesterday with football talking about on-campus classes. Today the U of M. Baseball today announcing that, hey, it looks very promising that we're going to start sometime between the end of June and the 4th of July, and then we're going to play 80 to 100 games. So there's a lot of positives, no doubt about that. It's always a positive if you go down Lamar into Mississippi. When you get to Craft Road, it's the very first exit in that state. Turn left, and you'll find where I think car business is done the way it should be done. It's the standard. It's Homer Skelton Hyundai and Genesis of Olive Branch. I'm a proud owner of a G70. That's the Genesis luxury car that is a performance car, a rocket ship of a car, and the safest car I think I've ever seen. It's got so many different pieces of safety technology and performance technology, and these things are all built so strongly they're good to last. 10 years, 100,000-mile limited powertrain warranty. That's what you get. And right now, Homer Skelton Hyundai, always thinking out of the box. They have come up with a new plan, first to do this, and that is 84 months interest-free. You don't pay any interest on the note for, basically the life of the car. 84 months, and here's another enticement. The first 3 months, don't worry about paying. You don't have to make a payment the first 120 days on select models. They've never made it easier for anybody than they are right now at Homer Skelton Hyundai and Genesis of Olive Branch. We are coming to the end of this one, but don't go anywhere, because crunch time, that's up next.
Want to get your voice heard? Hit us up on the First Bank phone line or First Bank text line.
Central Barbecue is committed to the health and safety of this community, who has supported Central for almost 20 years. Central Barbecue is still open for business with to-go and delivery options to serve the greater Memphis area with the same great barbecue you have come to know and love. With 4 locations to serve you, from downtown, midtown, and East Memphis, you can order your favorite barbecue and enjoy everything on the menu in the comfort of your own home. Call your nearest Central Barbecue location for more information on delivery and to-go options today.
I hate Tom's Tulip Shop. It just smells so flowery. Like we good at your flower shop. You don't need to remind us.
No matter how hard you work for your small business, online reviewers will find something to complain about.
I needed a fake plant. They don't sell fake plants. Thanks for nothing, Tom.
And while Progressive can't save you from these trolls, we can help you save money on commercial, auto, and business insurance.
Then he says, have a great day. I'll decide what kind of day to have.
Get a quote online today at progressivecommercial.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company, affiliated and third-party insurers.
Between panic buying and the large number of newly unemployed, food shortages are at an all-time high. Today, people who never dreamt they would need help feeding themselves or their families are showing up for food assistance. This Thursday, listen to this station and others nationwide as we raise funds for Feeding America. With your help, we'll restock food banks. Feeding America, a life-saving source of hope and help for millions. Listen this Thursday and please help if you can.
Welcome back to Sports Time on Sports 56 with Wolo and Stats. This hour of Sports Time is brought to you by DeSoto Auto Sales. Here once again are Dave Wolosian and Brad Norsworthy.
Come on, Muhammad, did we hit fame? Go crazy, folks! Go crazy! This is for all the biggest crunch time.
You are looking live. In your life have you seen anything like that?
We'll take questions again for the student athletes at this time, please.
What's happening, big dog? How you doing?
Is this thing working? It's obviously crunch time.
Hammer, nail, coffin, this baby is over.
Woo! Woo! Time for Taco Bell Crunch Time. Taco Bell, home of the crispy tortilla chips, topped with a double portion of either seasoned beef or shredded chicken, plus refried beans, nacho cheese sauce, reduced fat sour cream, guacamole, and a 3-cheese blend. Nachos Bel Grande, heaping portion of chips, topped with ground beef, tomatoes, beans, nacho cheese sauce, and a dollop of sour cream. Taco Bell, home to great food. You get on your way home real fast, and they bring you crunch time every day. Dave, I've learned today the Baltimore Ravens always get it right at draft time. From what they built with Ozzie Newsome and Ozzie We Trust, they still get it right. They develop players, almost the model for how to run a franchise and run a team. The continuity they have with the head coaching job and with the staff, and then how they have a plan, almost the opposite of the team that's in the city that they abandoned. It's in their division, Cleveland. Somewhere in that Ravens draft class this year, that I bet you they produce a Hall of Famer. They always do.
Brett, I learned today the AutoZone Liberty Bowl is going to start to release teams of the decade. So they are still trying to make things interesting in the city. They'll start with the 50s and then the coach, then the 60s and the coach, and so on. It'll be a lot of fun to watch as the AutoZone Liberty Bowl makes things a little spicier as we're always trying to come up with things to talk about during this pandemic.
I'm going to bet that the quarterback for the 60s will be Archie Manning, and the coach for the 70s and the 80s will be Bear Bryant. Could have done without this today. Almost 20% of the baseball season already wiped out with missing the games in March and what we're going to miss through August. No end in sight, it feels like, but a little bit of a plan today for Major League Baseball for the reopening in the 3 sites, Phoenix, Scottsdale, Texas, and Florida. Texas works well with about 8 places. The new ballpark in Arlington, TCU's home field, the ballpark in Frisco, the Astro Stadium, the ballpark in Round Rock, University of Texas Stadium, A&M Stadium, Baylor's ballpark. Texas could be the site of a lot of baseball in the 3-city plan, but I'm sad that we've missed almost 20% of baseball. What could you have done without, Dave?
I could have done without the story that Daisha Nix, a 5-star point guard that was the best commitment that Mick Cronin has gotten since he got to UCLA, decided to decommit from UCLA to join the elite pathway program of the G League. Another one bites the dust for college basketball.
It does, and I really don't know what the G League is really trying to do with this other than for kind of a stopgap year or two. I don't know if this will be a long-term plan because everything's going to change, I think, at the next CBA. Dave, we will do it again tomorrow with you. Thank you.
We got a great program tomorrow for sure, including Paul Rogers and David Kustoff.
We do. Congressman Kustoff will be with us at 3:30 tomorrow. We'll have T.J. Reeves, Rick Harrow, and Paul Rogers. We normally talk with Paul at this time of year about the Kentucky Derby. It would have been this Saturday, but it won't be. But we'll visit with Paul. We'll also get in some college basketball with Paul as well, keeping a close eye on a lot of things tonight. The NBA starting the slow baby steps to reopening facilities. Slow, the operative word for everybody right now. We have to go slow because we want to all get back safely and smartly with the reopen. And the NBA, they have to work some things out. And someone at William Hill Sportsbook bet $4,000 on the Tennessee Titans to win the Super Bowl next year at 40-1. That would pay $164,000 back. Drew, would you book that bet?
Maybe not on the Titans, but, I mean, if you got the money to spend it, you might as well, right?
$4,000 at 40-1.
That's a very good return
for somebody. Very good return. And we mentioned earlier, Oregon announces in the fall that they plan on school, and the news that the University of Memphis, under the leadership of Dr. Rudd, they plan on fall classes as well. Plans can change, but I like the optimism. It costs just as much as pessimism. For Drew, for Dave, I'm Brett. Everybody have a good, safe, healthy Tuesday night. We'll be back with you tomorrow at 3 o'clock. Good night.
I want to invite you to come by the Spirit Shop. You know, that little log cabin on Poplar? Your liquor and wine oasis. The Spirit Shop has been providing sports fans their beverage needs since way back in 1969. So come in now and get ready for the big game. Whether your favorite team wins or loses, the Spirit Shop will help you celebrate or ease that pain away. The Spirit Shop is open every day, and they're located perfectly at 4848 Poplar. That's the corner of Poplar and St. Nick.
Pros. Lowe's wants to help you keep working. That's why we're open for pro business hours 6 to 7 a.m. Monday through Saturday. You'll find the quantities you expect with dedicated pro associates and loaders to help you get what you need fast and load you up curbside. Now, more than ever, we know you need to win every single bid. You can count on Lowe's for special values on pro-trusted brands and savings when you buy in bulk. Save yourself a trip